Dear Miles Hammond, the Murder Club is to hold a dinner at Beltring's restaurant in Soho on Friday next at 8:30 p.m. Our speaker will be Chief Superintendent Hadley to tell us the story of an intriguing and unsolved mystery which I think might interest you. I realize you're not a member of the club. Perhaps you'd care to come along as my guest.
Dear Dr. Fell, thanks for your invitation, which I have much pleasure in accepting. As I probably told you, I shall be in town later this week interviewing applicants for a secretarial post, so it'll suit me very well. After a lifetime study of the history of crime, my late uncle has bequeathed his library to me, and I have now acquired a house full of sinister and bloodthirsty tales, so the Murder Club will be an appropriate meeting place.
We present Donald Sinden as Dr. Gideon Fell in He Who Whispers by John Dixon Carr.
Notes made by me, Gideon Fell, June the 18th, 1937, concerning a particularly cruel and horrific murder, a crime so evil and so shocking it seemed to be literally inhuman. And when Miles Hammond arrived at Beltring's restaurant, he too was in for a shock.
Made me jump. Who? What are you doing here?
I'm looking for Beltring's restaurant. Have I come to the wrong place? This looks more like a bar.
The restaurant's through there, but it's not open to the public tonight. There's a meeting going on. At least there should be.
I know. The Murder Club. That's why I'm here.
Oh, really? So am I. Perhaps we should introduce ourselves. I'm Barbara Morell. Who are you?
Miles Hammond. How do you do?
Hammond? You're not a member of the club, are you?
No, I'm a guest of Dr. Gideon Fell.
Oh, that's funny. So am I. But the weird part is, not a single member has turned up tonight. The whole club seems to have disappeared.
Disappeared?
There's no one here except you and me, and a policeman called Hadley. Frederic, the head waiter, is absolutely frantic. And now Oh, Frederic.
Oui, mademoiselle.
What's happening? Don't tell me the policeman's disappeared as well.
The chief superintendent is using the telephone. He is trying to call the president of the club, but I think he is having some difficulty.
What are you laughing at?
I was just thinking this would make a real scoop for some lucky reporter. On the night of the Murder Club meeting, all the members are found sitting quietly at home with knives in their backs.
That's not funny. You're not a journalist, are you?
No, why?
I thought not. Then you've been reading too many detective stories. As it happens, I am a journalist.
Well, that's all I need. For years, Gideon Fell has been trying to persuade me to come and talk to this club. And for years I've said, no, I don't want to be misreported in the press. And he always tells me there are no journalists here. So tonight I finally turn up to find a journalist and no murder club. Unless perhaps you...
Sorry, I'm not a member either. My name's Hammond.
Oh, of course, the doctor told me you're Sir Charles Hammond's nephew. You and your sister have inherited a library.
That's why I'm in London. I've been interviewing possible secretaries to help me get the library sorted out. And Dr. Fell invited me. Perhaps we ought to give him a ring.
Well, I tried that. The president's out of town and the doctor isn't at home either. It seems there'll be no dinner tonight, so we may as well give up and go.
Excuse me, Superintendent, but... do we have to? Frederic says all the tables are laid and the chef's waiting in the kitchen. Couldn't you tell us about the unsolved mystery anyway? I've been looking forward to it so much. Couldn't we, please?
Well, I don't know. How about it, Frederic?
Mademoiselle, Monsieur, dinner is served.
According to Hadley, the dinner was excellent. Too good, he said, to be treated as the mere background to a mystery story. Or perhaps he was afraid the details might spoil their appetites. But at last, over coffee, he began the strange tale of the Brooke family. Although they were typically English, they lived in France, not far from Chartres. Mr. Brooke owned a tannery on the outskirts of the city, producing a high-quality leather. As Hadley explained, he met them by chance 6 years ago while he was on holiday.
Yes, I'd only been there a few days. I happened to meet Howard Brooke whilst I was changing some money at his bank, and we got into conversation. He invited me back to the chateau. It had a perfect setting. Beside the river, and there was an old tower by the water's edge with a crumbling stone staircase spiralling up to a lookout platform at the top. I shall never forget that tower as long as I live.
Why?
Hang on. I've set the stage. Let me describe the characters. Brooke was in his 50s, his wife a few years younger, and they had one son, Harry, in his 20s. Brooke wanted the boy to take over the family business when he retired, but Harry had other ideas. His dream was to go to Paris and study painting.
Dear Miles Hammond.
Howard Brooke's personal secretary, Miss Fay Seaton.
Fay Seaton? What was she like?
Very intelligent and very beautiful. Of course, Harry fell for her and asked her to marry him. At first she refused him, but he was very determined, and presently she changed her mind. His parents weren't any too pleased about that.
Perhaps they wanted someone better for their son.
No, it wasn't that. Look, here's a photo of her. Though black and white doesn't do her justice. She had hazel eyes, a creamy complexion, and auburn hair. Now, tell me, can you see anything wrong in that face?
What do you mean, wrong?
Well, there were certain rumors. Some people believe she was dangerous. In spite of that, Harry and Fay announced their engagement. And that was when Mrs. Brooke phoned my hotel and begged me to come at once. She was afraid something terrible was about to happen. When I got there, she told me her husband was desperate to put a stop to the marriage. So desperate, he'd drawn £2,000 from the bank. He was about to have a showdown with the girl and try to buy her off.
Just because of some stupid gossip?
No, it wasn't only gossip. A family at a neighbouring farm had a 15-year-old son, and apparently he and the young woman were... Well, anyhow, Brooke had arranged to meet Fay at the top of the old tower.
Where was Harry during all this?
Mrs. Brooke said he was in his room writing letters, but when I got to the tower, Fay was in the doorway looking very pale. She was obviously upset.
Oh, why? What was wrong?
She told me Harry and his father were both up above. She'd heard them having a furious argument. Then she brushed past me and disappeared into the woods.
What did you do?
I climbed the corkscrew staircase as fast as I could and found them at the top of the tower. Brooke was wearing a raincoat. It looked as if a storm was about to break. He had a bulging briefcase propped up against the parapet beside his walking stick, and they were both talking at once, so angrily they didn't notice me at first.
That must have been an awkward moment.
When Howard saw me, he pulled himself together and said he was waiting for his secretary. They had some business to discuss and sent us both away.
Harry went with you?
Well, we had no alternative. By the time we got down the stairs, it had started to rain. We sheltered under the arch of the doorway, waiting for it to stop, and then...
Go on.
We heard a heavy thud, echoing down the stairwell. When we got to the roof, Brooke was lying face down, the back of his raincoat oozing blood from a stab wound below his left shoulder. His walking stick was in two pieces. I hadn't realized it was actually a sword stick, and there were blood stains on the blade. But the briefcase containing the £2,000 had vanished into thin air.
What did you do?
We eased him into a sitting position, and Harry gasped, "Dad, who was it? Who did this?" The old man opened his mouth and tried to speak, but he was too far gone. He died in his son's arms a few minutes later.
But who killed him? Was it Fay Seaton?
I told you. I saw her leave the tower 10 minutes earlier. Howard Brooke had been alone up there.
Are you trying to tell us the crime was committed by some supernatural creature floating through the air?
Look, it's strange you should say that. You're not the first person to suggest it. There are a lot of weird superstitions in that part of France.
But what happened next? Did the police arrest Fay Seaton?
Pardon, Superintendent. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there is a telephone call for you.
Would you excuse me? I'll tell you the rest later, as far as I can, at least. I shan't be long.
When he left them, there was a long silence. Barbara and Miles were both wrestling with the story they had heard. Eventually, Miles spoke up.
Penny for them.
Sorry?
A penny for your thoughts.
Well, to be honest, I don't know what to say.
Suppose I say it for you. It strikes me you're a lot more interested in Faye Seaton than you are in the murder club.
Perhaps. But so are you. You keep staring at that photo. You're fascinated by it, aren't you?
Well, yes, I suppose I am in a way.
And you're wondering what it would be like to fall in love with her.
In love? Oh, for heaven's sake, we don't even know whether she's still alive.
No, that's true. Mr. Hadley never told us that. When he comes back, we must...
The chief superintendent asked me to tell you the telephone call is from Dr. Fell. He is on his way and will be arriving shortly.
Oh, well, goodbye, Mr. Hammond. It's been very nice to meet you, but I must be going now.
You can't do that. The old boy would be a bit annoyed if he turned up and found you weren't here.
Not half as annoyed as if he found I was here. Excuse me, I really can't stop.
No, wait!
But she was already out of the door. Miles asked the head waiter to make his apologies and dashed after her, down the stairs and out of the building, just in time to see her hailing a cab at the corner of Frith Street.
Hang on. Where are you going?
Home, of course. Let go of my arm.
And where's home?
Earl's Court. Now, will you please let me go?
Couldn't be better. My hotel's in Kensington. I'll drop you off on the way. Whereabouts in Earl's Court?
Redcliffe Square.
OK, driver. Redcliffe Square and then the Royal Park Hotel.
We can't both rush off like this. It's terribly rude.
Don't worry. When I get in, I'll ring up and explain.
Explain? What is there to explain?
I was hoping you'd tell me. After all, you arranged all this, didn't you?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Somehow you cancelled that dinner tonight and put all the guests off except Hadley, because you wanted to hear the story about Faye Seaton alone, right?
Right. I found out the members' names and addresses and rang them all, pretending I was Dr. Fell's secretary, and said the dinner had been postponed. Then I rang Dr. Fell as the president's secretary and told him the same thing.
But surely the doctor must have recognized your voice.
I don't even know Dr. Fell. I lied about that, too.
But why, for heaven's sake?
Oh, it's too complicated now, but how long are you staying in town? If we could meet tomorrow, perhaps, I could explain.
Sorry, I have to go back to the country in the morning. My sister and her fiancé are coming up to do some shopping, and I'm going back on the train with them. But I'll be in London at the weekend.
So we can meet then?
Yes. I'd like that.
After Miles dropped Miss Morell off at Earl's Court, he went on to the Royal Park Hotel. But when he asked the desk clerk for his key...
Good evening, sir. I have a message for you.
Oh, what's that?
Let me see. Here it is. A young lady telephoned earlier. She said you'd applied to an employment agency for a librarian to do some cataloguing.
I did. They promised to send someone at 4 o'clock. I waited until nearly 7, but she never turned up, so
Oh, she was very sorry. She'd been held up. She wondered if you could see her tomorrow morning instead.
Yes, I think I can manage that. Did she leave a name?
Yes, sir. The name is Seaton. Miss Faye Seaton.
The following afternoon, Miles met his sister Marion and Steve, her fiancé, in the buffet at Waterloo Station. He'd allowed plenty of time before they caught the train, because he had something to tell them.
I'm sorry, Miles. I don't understand. Who is this Miss Seaton? I've never heard of her.
Nor have I. Perhaps it would be easier if you began at the beginning, old man.
Very well. 6 years ago in France, she was involved in a murder case. Local people had accused her of immoral behavior, and then her employer was found dead in mysterious circumstances.
Really? Well, I'm sure that's very interesting, but why are you telling us?
Because I met her this morning. I've engaged her to come to Greywood with us, to catalogue the books.
You're not serious.
I really believe he is. What made you do a thing like that?
I don't know. I've made up my mind to have nothing to do with her. Then she told me she had trained as a librarian. No wonder Hadley at the murder club gave me an odd look when I said I needed someone to sort out the library.
Did you say the murder club?
Yes, that's when I first met her. Superintendent Hadley was involved in the case at the time. This morning I met her and, well, now I've hired her, so she'll be travelling down with us. I thought I should tell you first.
Well, thanks, but as
Well,
it
I
happens...
suppose she spun you a heart-rending story and played on your sympathies.
Look, I'm trying to tell you
Far
something.
from it. She doesn't even know I've heard about the murder. We simply talked about the job, that's all.
Will somebody please listen?
That's right, darling. Try and make him see sense.
No, Miles must do whatever he thinks is right. But the thing is, I'm not coming down to Greywood this evening.
What? I thought you said...
Oh, I kept trying to tell you in the taxi, but you never listened. There's a crisis at the office. I can't leave things in a mess. We'll get it sorted out tonight, and then I'll come down first thing tomorrow. Sorry, but needs must.
Oh, well... What time train?
I'll catch the 7:30. And don't you dare mess about with the kitchen boiler. I know its little ways.
Yes, all right. But I want to hear some more about this girl. Tell me about her.
I think you'll like her, but you won't mention any of this, will you? Don't say anything that might bring up the past. She's been through a very bad time.
Oh, of course. Actually, I'm rather glad she'll be there to help me get the house straight. You know, I think I'll let her have my bedroom. The guest room needs a spring clean, and I can sleep in the garden room. Oh, I've always thought it must be lovely to wake up and walk straight out.
There you go. You ask Miles to tell us about the girl, and then you never let him get a word in edgeways.
Oh, sorry. Go on. Tell us about her.
I'll try. But anyway, you'll soon see for yourself. She's going to meet us at the platform.
I wish I'd been there when Miles introduced Fay to Marion. Two charming ladies, not dissimilar in age and upbringing, yet on a deeper level, totally different. However, they seemed to get on very well. The journey passed pleasantly enough, and by the time they reached Greywood, they'd become friends. After supper, Fay insisted on helping with the washing up, and then Miles showed her the library, with books piled from floor to ceiling.
I did warn you, didn't I? It's going to be a very long job.
I shall enjoy it. And your sister has been so kind. I feel at home here already.
Oh, yes. Marion will make sure you're comfortable.
She offered to move out of her bedroom and let me have it. But I said I wouldn't dream of it. I'd sooner be on the ground floor anyway.
Oh? Why is that?
Oh, no special reason. I just feel more comfortable. And the garden's so lovely, and the air smells so good.
Yes, you'll notice the difference, coming from London. You'll sleep like a log tonight.
I hope so.
Why? Do you find it difficult to sleep?
Sometimes.
Mind you, it can be awkward. A friend of my uncle coming down by car actually fell asleep at the wheel, ran smack into a tree. Luckily, he wasn't badly hurt, but it could have been very nasty.
Yes. That's how Harry Brooke was killed, in a car crash.
What?
You know all about me, don't you?
I suppose Marion told you. I asked her not to.
She didn't say it in so many words, but she hinted. I just wanted to tell you how grateful I am for giving me this job. I was nearly sent to the guillotine for Mr. Brooke's murder. But how did you get to hear about it?
Someone called Hadley from Scotland Yard told me.
Ah, in the end, it was Mr. Hadley who persuaded the French police that there was no evidence against me. I'll always be grateful to him. And now he's helped me again. We kept in touch. And when he heard through Dr. Fell that you were looking for someone to catalogue a library, he suggested I should apply for the job.
I see. I never realised.
Of course. But I don't want there to be any secrets between us. And I didn't kill Mr. Brooke.
I'm sure you didn't.
Harry and I were going to be married until someone started spreading nasty rumours about me. I think Mr. Brooke got some anonymous letters. He asked me to meet him privately at the Tower. I didn't know he'd been to the bank and drawn out £2,000 to bribe me. Harry didn't know that either. He'd been up in his room, writing a letter. He wrote every week to Jim Morrell, an old friend from England.
Morrell? No relation to Barbara Morrell, by any chance?
Oh, I've no idea. Harry never mentioned her. Why?
It doesn't matter. Sorry I interrupted. Please, go on.
Well, I thought Harry was still in his room. But when I reached the Tower, I heard him and his father up above, quarrelling.
That must have been when you met Hadley in the doorway.
Yes. I didn't want to get involved in a family row, so I went for a walk through the woods. I didn't find out what had happened until I came back to the house about an hour later, and Harry came out to meet me saying that someone had killed his father. It wasn't me. You do believe that, don't you?
Of course.
Anyway, eventually the police decided it was suicide.
Suicide?
Mr. Brooke's fingerprints were the only ones on the sword stick. You know about the sword stick?
Yes.
The police surgeon said it would have been almost impossible from the position of the wound. But there was no other evidence, so they had to let me go.
But what about the briefcase full of money? Hadley said it had disappeared.
They thought in his struggle Mr. Brooke had knocked it over the parapet into the river. It was never found. The whole business created a sensation. And then Harry was killed in the car crash, and a month later Mrs. Brooke died too. She was so heartbroken. They said she died of grief.
Do you two have any idea what time it is?
Marion, for goodness sake.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was my fault. I hadn't realised it was so late, and I want to start work early tomorrow. But before I go to bed, I've got a little something for you, Marion, to thank you for being so kind and welcoming.
Oh, heavens. You don't have to do that.
But I want to. It won't take a moment. It's in my suitcase. I'll go and get it now before I start unpacking.
Well, I must say, she's behaving like the perfect guest.
But you still don't like her, do you?
I never said that. I do like her, only...
Only what?
There's something about her. I can't explain it. I just feel you should be careful, very careful.
Listen, I have no personal interest in Faye Seaton, if that's what you're worried about. I'm interested in an unsolved mystery, that's all.
Yes, that's the part that worries me. All that nonsense about murderous demons floating through the air. I'll believe it when I see one, that's all I can say.
And suppose you did see one, what would you do?
A sinister face floating outside my window. Oh, I'd probably take a pot shot at it with my revolver. Steve insists I have some sort of protection whenever I'm alone here, so he...
Hello. What's that?
A car at this time of night? Who on earth?
It's the taxi from the village. There's someone getting out. Good Lord!
Who is it?
An old friend of mine, Dr. Gideon Fell.
I apologized twice for my arrival, since I was not only extremely late, but also uninvited. Marion Hammond offered to make up a bed for me, but I told her that I would be returning to London by the last train. The cab driver had agreed to wait until I was ready to go back to the station. I could see Marion was very tired, and she admitted she was feeling drowsy. Then she said good night and went up to bed. Naturally, Miles wanted to know the reason for my unexpected arrival. And when I explained that Hatley had telephoned me late that afternoon to tell me about the mysterious events at the murder club, he decided that we both needed a drink. Don't drown it.
How's that?
That's splendid. You're very good health. Yep, well, that's better.
Now, would you mind telling me what all this is about?
Not at all. I'm very glad to have had the opportunity to meet your sister. Charming young lady.
Yes, she is. But I don't imagine you came all this way just to compliment me on my relatives.
Not entirely, no. I admit there is another member of this household who arouses my curiosity.
You mean Faye Seaton?
I do indeed.
How did you know she was here?
Well, let's say I thought it was highly probable. You're employing her as your librarian, I presume?
Yes. What's wrong with that?
Miss Barbara Morell also telephoned me today to apologize for upsetting our arrangements last night. And to tell me Faye Seaton was in London. She even had her address. And now Faye is here, under your roof. I must see her. There's one particular question I have to put to her. And I must also warn you that...
for heaven's sake, not you two. Look, I've already talked to her about Howard Brooke's murder. She told me she didn't kill him, and I believe her.
Did she also tell you that after the inquest, a mob of local farmhands were threatening to lynch her?
What? I know there were vague rumours about her carrying on with some local...
No, the rumours were not vague. Young Pierre Freneck had been ill. In his delirium, he had a nightmare. He dreamed he saw a white face floating outside his attic window. But next morning, when his father woke the boy, he saw tooth marks on his throat, where the blood...
That's ridiculous. They actually believed that Faye was...
They believed in vampires. In the undead. Those were the accusations made in the anonymous letters sent to Howard Brooke. That was why he tried to break his son's engagement and buy her off. And that is why he died.
Are you telling me you believe that vampires exist?
I certainly believe in the existence of evil, which is why I warn you to be on your guard. Evil forces have struck once. They could strike again. So, before I leave tonight...
You're not leaving. We'll talk about this in daylight and let a little sanity into it. And tomorrow morning, when Marion hears the rest of the story...
You've already told your sister about it.
Oh, of course. In fact, I asked her what she would do if she met a supernatural horror floating in midair.
And what did she say?
She said she'd probably fire a revolver at it. Anyhow, this question you've got to put to Faye. If it's really important, I'll go and fetch her.
What?
Dear God! Marion!
When Miles switched on the light, we found Marion Hammond in her bed. In her hand was a small revolver. Her eyes were glassy and unblinking, her face chalk white. On the bedside table was a photograph of Marion with her fiancé. Happy and carefree, very different from the helpless woman who lay before us. I put my hand to her wrist, hoping to feel a pulse.
Well, is she...
It's very faint, but her heart is still beating. She needs fresh air. Open the window.
Yes, I noticed that strong perfume as soon as we came in.
Now, there's an open bottle on the dressing table.
Look at this. A bullet hole through the glass. What do you think she saw outside her window?
Never mind that. Is there a local doctor?
Yes, Dr. Gilpin in the village.
It was lucky I'd kept the taxi waiting. Within 10 minutes, the doctor was at Marion's bedside, and with his help, she began to regain consciousness. In the meantime, Miles had gone in search of Faye Seaton. He found her out in the moonlight in a grey dressing gown, wandering through the garden like a ghost.
I heard a shot. What happened?
We're not sure. Marion was unconscious with the gun in her hand. I thought she was dead at first.
Yes, I know.
You know?
I'd been asleep, but the shot woke me. I heard you go upstairs, so I slipped on my dressing gown and ran up after you. The bedroom door was open, and when I looked in, I saw... Well, you know what I saw.
You're still trembling.
I should have ran upstairs. I have a weak heart. But I never stopped to think, and then when I saw her... What happened? I still don't understand.
Nor do we. She must have been frightened by someone or something outside the window and took a shot at it.
You mean a burglar trying to break in?
Yeah, that's impossible. Look up there. The window's 15 feet from the ground. And yet she saw something, and it frightened her so much she nearly died.
Oh, this can't go on. It mustn't go on. Oh.
Good evening. Miss Seaton, I believe. I'm sorry if I startled you.
Faye, this is Dr. Fell, an old friend of mine.
Dr. Gideon Fell? You caught the 6 Ashes murderer and the poisoner at Silbury Cross?
You embarrass me, madam. Let's say I'm an old buffer with an unfortunate habit of getting mixed up in murders.
How is Marion?
Dr. Gilpin says she'll recover, but it was a near thing. I understand that you were the last person to speak to Miss Hammond before she lost consciousness.
I was?
Miles told me that you were going to give her a present of some kind.
Oh, that was nothing. Just some French perfume. I thought she might like it.
She did indeed. We found it already open on her dressing table. But during your conversation, she didn't appear to be nervous or apprehensive about anything.
No, not at all.
Hello there. I wonder where you've got to.
Dr. Gilpin, may I introduce Miss Seaton? She's also staying here.
How do you do?
Please, tell me, how is Miss Hammond?
Well, I'm glad to say she's out of danger, though she needs a rest for a day or two. I'll look in again tomorrow morning to see how she's getting on.
I don't imagine anyone slept very well that night. I know I didn't. But by daylight next morning, everything seemed to be getting back to normal. Until the telephone rang.
Hello?
May I speak to Miles Hammond? My name is Barbara Morell, and...
Barbara, that's amazing. I was going to try and get in touch with you.
Were you? Why?
It's rather complicated, but listen, if I come up to town today, could I possibly see you?
Yes, I suppose so.
There's a train at 9:50. It takes about 2 hours. Where would be a good place to meet?
I'll be at Waterloo to meet your train.
Terrific. I can't go into it all now, but... Well, there was a very nasty business here last night. Hang on, I think there's someone... Dr. Gilpin, is that you?
No, it's me. Morning.
Steve, come in. I'm on the phone, but I won't be a moment. Sorry, where was I?
You said something about last night.
Yes. Something happened in my sister's room that seems beyond belief. Look, we'll talk later.
All right. I'll see you at midday.
Yes, I'll be there. Bye.
What was all that about?
It's all right. Nothing to worry about now, though Marion was in a pretty bad way, but she's okay.
Marion? Why? What's happened?
Someone or something got into her room and scared her half to death. But the doctor says she's going to be...
Oh, my God. It was that damned librarian, I suppose.
What do you mean?
Well, when you told us about her, I had a sort of premonition. Some people stir up trouble wherever they go.
Where's Marion now? Up in her room, still asleep. I must see her. Sorry.
It's my fault entirely.
Let me introduce you. Steve Curtis, Marion's fiancé, Dr. Fell.
Yes, of course. You started all this. You and your damned murder club.
Sorry about that. I just told him about Marion. He's very upset, naturally.
Yeah, of course.
It's my fault. I brought Faye Seaton here. You heard what he said. Some people stir up trouble wherever they go.
Yes, I heard. But before you blame yourself, hadn't we better be sure that Miss Seaton is the troublemaker?
I don't understand.
And last night you asked me if I believed in vampires. Well, I might possibly accept a vampire who materialized in broad daylight and killed with a sword stick, but I could never believe in a vampire who pinched a briefcase with £2,000 in it.
Never mind all that. What about last night? Whatever it was that terrified Marion...
Yes, that was different. That was the real touch of Satan. But those two events, the murder at the tower and the frightening of your sister, are connected. I don't know how or why. I propose to question Miss Seaton, though I fear it won't do much good. The best thing will be for you to get in touch with Barbara Morell.
I am in touch with her. She rang me a few minutes ago, and I've arranged to go up to town and meet her later on.
Have you, by Jove? Well, now we're getting somewhere. Did you ask her about Jim Morell?
No, but I'm going to see her.
Good morning, Mr. Hammond. Dr. Fell.
Good morning.
Good morning. Before I go up to see the patient, I wonder if I might have a word.
Of course.
Would you say your sister was a highly strung, nervous type of person?
No, not at all.
No, I thought not. And she doesn't suffer at all from what you might call hallucinations?
Oh, good Lord, no. What gave you that idea?
Well, last night she kept muttering about someone who whispered in her ear. It distressed her very much.
Oh, whispered? But surely a whisper...
Quite. It struck me as very odd. She kept referring to it again and again. Oh, perhaps this morning she'll be able to clarify it a little. Oh, and when I've seen her, I'd like to see the other lady, Miss Seaton. Last night she looked alarmingly pale. Not as much blood colour as she should have. Anyway, we'll talk again later.
Whispers? Dr. Fell, do you know the answer to all this?
Alas, no. Except, of course, the vampire legend.
Vampires again. What have they got to do with it?
Nothing, probably, except that in folklore, the vampire whispers softly to her victims to put them in a trance. I seem to remember a story about Cagliostro.
Who?
Count Cagliostro, the 18th century wizard, prophet, alchemist. He gave a dinner party once and summoned the ghosts of 6 great men from the shadows to sit down to dine with 6 living guests. According to his biographer, at first conversation did not flow freely, which might be rather an understatement. He also attended another eerie party in London, at the Old King's Head in Soho. Oddly enough, not far from the restaurant where you met Barbara Morell. Oh, Lord. Oh, Bacchus.
What's the matter?
I think I got it. I know what frightened your sister, and it was done by design, by deliberate, brutal design. I'm going to find Miss Seaton, and this time I'm going to get the truth out of her. Mr. Curtis, we meet again.
Come in, Steve. You've seen Marion. How is she?
She's still a bit under the weather. Gilpin's with her now. By the way, Doctor, I'm sorry I lost my temper just now, but I'd had a bit of a shock.
Yes, perfectly natural. I understand. Now, if you'll excuse me, I want to have that word with Miss Seaton.
First door on the left.
I wouldn't mind a few words with her myself. What the hell were you thinking of, bringing her into this house?
Pull yourself together. Marion's going to be all right.
Well, no thanks to you. You don't give a damn about your sister, do you? All you care about is that infernal little slut you picked up out of the gutter.
For God's sake, calm down. What's wrong with you?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know what came over me. I'm going for a walk. Maybe the fresh air will clear my head. By the by, what's Dr. Fell doing here, anyway? And what does he want with your precious librarian?
He's simply trying to find out what's going on.
Unfortunately, I was too late. Miss Seaton has gone.
Gone? Why? What's happened?
She left this on her pillow. It's addressed to you.
Dear Mr. Hammond, I'm afraid I have to go up to London on an urgent matter that needs my attention. Perhaps it's just as well I kept on my little room in town. And a briefcase might be useful, too. But don't worry, I shall return before nightfall.
I should have guessed. Presumably she'll be going to London by train.
I suppose so. There's the 9:50. That's the one I meant to take to meet Barbara. They must have caught the bus at the end of the lane a few minutes ago.
Ring for a taxi. You've got to be on that train. I warn you here and now, if that young woman carries out her plan, something damnable is going to happen. You must catch that train.
You'd better go up and say goodbye to Marion before you leave. I'll ring for a cab, don't worry.
Miles caught the train with 30 seconds to spare and immediately set out to find Faye Seaton. But although he went through every coach, he drew a blank. She was not on board. When he reached Waterloo, Barbara Morell was waiting for him at the barrier.
Hello. Did you have a good journey?
No, I didn't. I mean, thank you for coming to meet me, but, oh, Lord, everything's gone wrong.
What do you mean?
We thought Faye would be on the train. Dr. Fell said I had to find her. Everything depended on it, and now I don't know what to do because she wasn't on it.
But she was. I saw her just now. She came through the barrier about a half a minute before you did.
That's impossible. I searched the whole train. Hey, I thought you'd never met her. How did you recognize her?
From the photo Mr. Happy showed us, remember?
Oh, yes, of course. Which way did she go?
I've no idea. There were so many people about her.
Hang on. Dr. Fell said you knew her address.
Yes, she lives in Camden Town, 5 Bolsover Place.
What's the quickest way to get there?
By underground.
Right. What are we waiting for?
I don't want to keep pestering you with questions, but what's so urgent about finding her?
Does the name Jim Morell mean anything to you?
Of course. He's my brother, but you can't possibly connect Jim with any of this. He's in Canada. He's been living there for years. How did you hear his name?
Faye Seaton said Harry Brooke used to write to him.
Oh, yes. Jim knew that unspeakable swine.
But I thought everyone seemed to like Harry.
Oh, yes. Good old Harry. Jolly good chap. Only I know a few things about Harry Brooke. And about Faye Seaton.
Now, look, I don't care what you say. I happen to believe in Faye Seaton. Everyone thinks I'm mad. You weren't the only person who warned me against her.
I did nothing of the sort. I wasn't trying to warn you. I was hoping you might be able to help her.
I only wish I could, but...
Faye Seaton is the most terribly wronged person I ever heard of. As for those things she was accused of, the immorality, the absurd superstitions, they were a deliberate frame-up from start to finish.
I felt that all along. But who'd want to do anything so...
Harry, of course. That charming young man was a cruel, ruthless devil determined to get his own way.
Hello, this is Camden Town, quick.
But it was too late. Absorbed in conversation, they'd missed their stop and had to travel on to Kentish Town. As they walked back, Barbara filled in the details.
You know Harry was set on becoming a painter in spite of his parents' wishes?
Yes, but what's that got to do with anything?
It had to do with everything. He was afraid if he simply left home, they'd cut him off without a penny. So he had to devise a scheme that would force them to let him go. That's when Faye arrived on the scene, and he pretended to fall in love with her.
Pretended?
At the same time, he started a whispering campaign against her. He even bribed a 15-year-old boy to scratch his own throat and tell some nightmare tale about vampires. And he sent his father anonymous letters, hinting at some terrible secrets in her past, so his parents would beg him to break off the engagement. The plan was he'd finally come to them, shedding crocodile tears, and say, "All right, if I give her up, will you send me to Paris for 2 years so I can try to forget her?"
How do you know all this?
He was so proud of his scheme, he couldn't resist writing to my brother and telling him how clever he'd been.
And you knew about it at the time?
No, that was 6 years ago, before Jim emigrated. Then one morning he was reading the paper and he said, "My God, old man Brooke's been killed." But he never told me what he knew about Harry. And a few months later he went to Canada.
So how did you find out about Harry's plan and Faye?
After Jim left, I spring-cleaned his room. And I found all Harry's letters in the waste paper basket. I shouldn't have read them, but I did. And I kept this one. I always carry it with me. Look, it's the last letter Harry sent to Jim, the day his father died. His writing's awful. Let me read you the last page.
Go on.
Here we are. "Something terrible has just happened. Someone killed Dad. He was alone at the top of the tower, but someone stabbed him. God knows how. Must get this in the post quickly. For God's sake, don't tell anyone what I've been telling you. If Faye went mad and killed the old boy, I don't want anyone to know I've been spreading gossip about her. It wouldn't look good. I never meant anything like this to happen. Yours in haste, H.B.
So she isn't guilty. She isn't guilty of anything, and yet somehow or other she believes she's damned forever. I'm certain of that. What's worse, she's in danger. We must find her before it's too late.
Don't worry. Here we are. Number 5.
As they entered the house, a stale, mildewy smell broke over them like a wave. A woman on the ground floor told them where to find Faye, and they climbed the steep, uncarpeted stairs to the second-floor landing.
Who is it?
Hello, Faye?
What are you doing here? Did you follow me?
I had to. You may be in danger.
You startled me. Who's that with you?
Hello, Miss Seaton.
This is Barbara Morell, Jim Morell's sister. She's very anxious to meet you. In fact,
He stopped short as he saw, lying on a side table, an old briefcase, dried and cracked, still bulging, but with the flap open. And beside it was a wad of banknotes, stained with rusty brown patches.
Oh, yes. They're bloodstains. Mr. Brooks' blood got on them when he...
Faye, for God's sake.
I shouldn't be here. I'm not needed. Miles, I'll leave you and Miss Seaton.
No, please. Come in, both of you. And close the door. Thank you. And perhaps you'd switch the light on. I'll just draw the curtains. We don't want anyone across the street to spy on us.
But the briefcase, the money, I don't understand. You can't be guilty. We have proof of that. The accusations against you are trumped up by Harry Brooke.
Oh, yes. I've known that all along.
Then why didn't you say so at the time?
Oh, because... Oh, what difference does it make now?
What difference? But the damned briefcase. Is the rest of the money still there?
Of course. I only stole it. I didn't spend any of it.
I have no right to ask, but what else is inside it?
Who's there?
Superintendent Hadley, Metropolitan Police. Mr. Morell, Mr. Hammond, good afternoon. And Miss Seaton. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
What are you doing here?
I had a call from Dr. Fell. He told me what happened at Greywood last night and asked me to keep an eye on you.
It's all right, Faye. The doctor's concerned for your safety.
He's concerned for everyone's safety. He also asked me to put a question to you, Miss Seaton. I understand that last night, after you heard the shot, you went upstairs to Miss Hammond's room. You found Dr. Fell and Mr. Hammond already there. Then you turned and ran away. Apparently you saw something there which upset you very much.
Did I? I don't remember.
I'm afraid I find that difficult to believe. You saw something that shocked you so much you ran out of the house hardly knowing what you were doing. Why not tell us what you...
At that instant, though no one touched the switch by the door, the light went out. With heavy curtains across the windows, they were plunged into darkness. The door opened, and something rushed into the room.
What the... Oh.
No, don't!
Open the curtain!
Faye, are you all right?
It's gone. The briefcase. It's gone. I must get it back.
Before Miles could stop her, she rushed past him, out of the door and down the stairs. In her headlong flight, she didn't notice the briefcase, which had been tossed aside on the landing. Miles picked it up and called after her over the balusters.
It's all right, Faye. The briefcase is here, and the money's still inside it. Nothing else except a few bits of stone.
Never mind. Miss Seaton, come back! God. Come and give me a hand.
At the bottom of the stairs, Faye Seaton lay very still. Her face had a deathly pallor.
Is she all right?
I don't know yet. I seem to remember she has a weak heart.
Yes.
Call an ambulance. She shouldn't have tried to run like that. I think it's finished.
Several hours later, Miles and Barbara were still waiting for news from the hospital.
She may recover, you know.
Yes. I just wish I could understand. She knew all along that the slanders, the anonymous letters, were all the work of Harry Brooke. So why didn't she tell anyone?
Perhaps she still loved him, in spite of everything. I don't know.
Neither do I. Why is Hadley keeping us here? Why can't we go to the hospital?
Who is it?
It's only me. Hello, Miles. And Miss Morell, I believe. Gideon Fell.
Dr. Fell? Oh, I'm so sorry about the other night, the restaurant.
Don't give it another thought. When Hadley rang and told me what had happened, I caught the next train. I've just come from the hospital.
You've seen her? How is she?
She's alive. I can't tell you much more than that. How long she lives depends upon her will to live. But I have to tell you, Faye Seaton is a doomed woman.
I know she's innocent. This is the letter Harry Brooke wrote to Jim Morell on the day his father was killed.
Thank you.
You'll see, he admits he manufactured all the malicious stories about Faye. The whole thing was a pack of lies.
And yet a crime was committed.
2 crimes have been committed, and they were both the work of the same person. The first was unpremeditated and slapdash. The second was planned and wickedly evil.
Do you mean you know who killed Howard Brooke?
Oh, yes. When he returned from the bank with the money intended for Faye, he went up to his son's room. Harry wasn't there, but he found an unfinished letter on the desk. This letter, containing a resume of Harry's scheme. You can imagine how he must have felt. Then he went to the tower to keep his appointment with Faye. I believe he wanted to apologize to her, but he never had the chance.
Go on.
When Harry heard his father had been to his bedroom, he guessed he must have read the letter. He pulled on his coat, now don't forget there was a storm threatening, and hurried to the tower. When Faye arrived, the 2 men were quarreling. She heard how Harry had used her to carry out his plan, and went away completely shattered. Then Harry lost his temper, snatched up the sword stick, stabbed his father, and then they heard Hadley entering the tower. Mr. Brooke's immediate instinct was to cover up for his son. He tore off his raincoat, which was ripped and stained with blood, and told Harry to give him his coat. Then bundled up his own coat and stuffed it into the briefcase.
So that's what made it look so bulky. I never understood how a few packets of notes filled out like that.
Oh, quite so. By the time Hadley reached the top of the tower, Mr. Brooke thought he had prevented a family scandal. He told Hadley to take his son away, but when they left, he realized that he might be dying. There was only one thing to be done. As his strength ebbed away, he exchanged the 2 coats once more, and stuffed Harry's coat, which must have had bloodstains on the lining, into the briefcase, weighed it down with a few lumps of stone, and dropped it over the parapet, and then collapsed. The 2 men down below heard him fall and hurried upstairs, and he died in his son's arms, assuring him that everything would be all right. God rest his soul.
But where was Faye during all this?
As she was going past the tower, she saw the briefcase fall into the reeds beside the river, and she picked it up. When she found what was in it, the money and the stones, the blood-soaked raincoat, she understood.
I suppose she kept it in case Harry tried to pin the murder on her. His raincoat would have proved he was guilty.
And he got away with murder. His father covered up for him, and so did Faye. By God, I wish I'd met Harry Brooke. I'd like to tell him what I thought of him.
Well, that's not impossible. Would you like to meet him now?
What?
Are you there, Hadley? Would you bring the prisoner in, please?
In you go, sir.
This is ridiculous. I tell you, it's all a mistake.
Oh, what the devil? Steve! What's going on? Doctor, what are you playing at?
We need to make a formal identification. Because, you see, the man who calls himself Stephen Curtis is, in fact, Harry Brooke.
But, Doctor, I feel as if I'm here under false pretenses after what happened last time in this restaurant. I really don't deserve to be taken out to supper.
No, not another word. After what you've been through today, it's the least I can do.
I can't help thinking about Faye and what she's been through this weekend.
Not just this weekend. For years she's gone through her own private hell.
So, how did Harry Brooke become Steve Curtis? I suppose his death in a car crash was just another lie.
No, I think there was a car crash. Somewhere on a lonely French road, I think he found a wrecked car, and the driver, about his own age, dead. He realized it was a golden opportunity and assumed the clothes and papers and identity of the real Stephen Curtis.
Well, it must have been a nasty moment for him when you announced that you'd hired Faye Seaton to come and work for you, Miles. No wonder he had a sudden crisis at the office.
No, but I think he saw another possibility. Faye Seaton still had the evidence that proved he was a murderer. If she were disposed of, there'd be no one left to connect Stephen Curtis with Harry Brooke.
You mean he was planning to kill her?
Miles, you said something about your sister offering to give Faye her bedroom. Now, was Harry Brooke aware of that?
Oh, yes. It was only when we got to Greywood that Faye said she'd prefer to sleep downstairs.
So Harry didn't know that. When he arrived late that night, he expected to find Faye in Marian's room. He didn't turn on the light, but when he caught a whiff of perfume, a perfume that Faye had worn ever since her first visit to France, he remembered that. He planned a very skillful murder, but he got the wrong woman. It wasn't until the next morning that I began to suspect him. You were on the phone to Barbara, remember?
Yes, I started to tell her what was going on.
You said something happened in my sister's room that seems beyond belief.
And that was when Harry, walked in, pretending he'd just arrived on the early train.
And he heard what you said. When you rang off, you told him not to worry. Marian was going to be all right. I was outside, so I didn't see his face, but I heard him say, Marian. He was completely thunderstruck. I wondered why. He already knew something nasty had happened in her room. Who did he think it had happened to? Her great-aunt Agatha?
Sorry to interrupt, but I still don't know what did happen in her room. What was it that frightened her so much? What had she seen?
She didn't see anything.
Well, she must have done. She fired a shot at it.
Oh, no, she didn't. I was mystified at first, but sometime later, when we were discussing Cagliostro, I remembered how he was initiated into a secret society at the King's Head in Soho. He was blindfolded, given a pistol, then told to put it to his temple and pull the trigger, without knowing whether it was loaded or not. When he pulled the trigger, there was a thunderous explosion. But it wasn't loaded. Someone had fired a second gun just behind him. It was a cruel hoax.
And Harry did that to Marian?
While she was asleep. He put an unloaded pistol to her head and kept whispering to her, telling her that she was about to die. She didn't know he had another one loaded with a real bullet. Slowly, he squeezed the trigger. She heard the hammer moving slowly back. And then...
Oh!
I beg your pardon. I got carried away. But just imagine, what would a shock like that do to someone with a weak heart? After that, Harry slipped out of the house and lay low till the following morning.
But, Doctor, when we rushed up to Marian's room, Faye followed us. The door was open and she looked in, and something she saw there terrified her. What was it?
Cast your mind back. On the bedside table, there was a photograph of Marian and her fiancé. That's when Faye knew Harry was still alive. And she realized that the attack had been intended not for Marian, but for her. He had returned from nowhere to take her life.
Which is why she ran away and why he decided to follow her to London.
He was so helpful, wasn't he, Miles? He rang for a taxi, he even came to see you off. And as the train began to pull out, he jumped into another compartment.
But I searched the whole train, looking for Faye.
You were looking for a woman. No doubt he kept a newspaper in front of his face. You wouldn't have given him a second glance.
But I never saw Faye, either.
I think I can explain that. If a train's really crowded, I have a quiet word with the guard. If you ask nicely, they sometimes let you travel in the guard's van.
And, of course, Harry didn't know Faye's address, so he followed you two, hoping you'd lead him to her. And you did. She warned him in the note she left that she still had the incriminating briefcase in her possession. And he had to get it back.
He pulled the switch in the fuse box on the landing, and he nearly got away with it. He chucked the briefcase. It was the raincoat he was after. He ran out of the house, still clutching it, slap bang into the office I'd left outside.
I'd say Marian had a lucky escape. I hope you can explain that to her, Miles.
Oh, yes. But Faye wasn't so lucky. As you said, Mr. Hadley, she's been through hell.
And yet even now there's some quality in her that won't let her speak out to denounce the man she had once loved. She might only have a few months to live. She is sick at heart and without hope. But she...
Excuse me.
What's the matter?
I'm going to her.
Miles, don't be silly. You hardly know her. Whatever crazy plan you have in mind, it's bound to end in disaster.
I don't care. I'm going to her.
And for the second time, Miles Hammond left Beltring's restaurant, hurried down the stairs, and ran out into the night.
In He Who Whispers by John Dickson Carr, Dr. Gideon Fell was played by Donald Sinden. Chief Superintendent Hadley, John Hartley. Miles Hammond, Christopher Kellum. Barbara Morell, Gemma Saunders. Faye Seaton, Sarah Rice. Marion Hammond, Beth Chalmers. Steve Curtis, David Thorpe. Dr. Gilpin, Paul Gregory. Frederick, the head waiter, Gavin Muir. The hotel desk clerk, Tom George. He Who Whispers was dramatized for radio by Peter Ling and directed by Enid Williams.
Banquo's murderer discovered by Samuel Johnson, Doctor of Laws, and his companion James Boswell. Had any man in London propounded this fantasy a month ago, I'd have called him mad or drunk. Yet today the talk in the coffee houses is of nothing else. How my distinguished friend Dr. Johnson brought to light one infamous murder and prevented another is the subject of universal admiration. I should flatter myself were I to claim any credit for this achievement. Nevertheless, I believe I was to some degree of assistance to him. And my concern now is to record, while they are fresh in my memory, the singular events that have plagued Mr. Garrick and the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, during the past week.
We present Leo McKern as Dr. Samuel Johnson and Edward D'Souza as James Boswell, with Lawrence Payne as David Garrick in Dr. Johnson Investigates, a play by Richard Brayshaw. Dr. Johnson Investigates.
It began one evening at the Somerset Coffee House in the Strand. I remember Dr. Johnson was expatiating about the theatre and upon his friend and former pupil, David Garrick.
Why, sir, artifice and experience. The actor must employ artifice, yet the passions he portrays must spring from human experience.
You mean, Johnson, that the actor must truly feel the emotions he expresses?
By no means, Bossy. He must counterfeit, he must imitate, but that imitation springs from nature. This is the actor's craft.
Art and nature. A modicum of both, and a preponderance of neither.
Just so, sir. There are some players, accomplished ones too, who become so adept at counterfeiting that they cannot distinguish between what is true and what is fictitious. Fact and fantasy become so commingled in their minds that they pass from one to the other unawares. You may converse with them for an hour at a time without discovering their real feelings.
For example, sir, even now, conspiracy, regicide, and armed insurrection are impending on the stage at Drury Lane. But who is to comprehend what hidden passions truly activate the protagonist?
Exactly, Bossy. For all we know, Macbeth may be more exercised in his mind by the payment of his tailor than by the murder of the King of Scotland.
Act one, beginners, please. Beginners, please. Act one, beginners. Come along, gentlemen. On stage, please. You know Mr. Garrick hates unpunctuality.
Hold me up at the back, Binny. There's the dear. What's the house like tonight?
Oh, packed to the roof, my dear. And all come to see you.
Oh, of course, Binny.
Oh,
can't you see the critics' eulogies? Sarah Siddons' performance called for universal admiration. In the banquet scene, she consumed mouldy bread and cold tea with the utmost conviction. Oh, and her 5 lines as the second apparition in Act 4 evoked rapturous applause.
Have patience, dearie. You'll be famous one day.
Oh, I wish Mr. Garrick thought so.
One of these days, Mr. Garrick's going to eat his words. You'll see. Which is on stage, please. To your places, gentlemen. Everyone ready, please? Quiet, everybody, quiet. Curtain going up.
When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly is done, when the back...
I'd be obliged, Mr. Barry, if you'd give me the correct cue this evening.
And I'd be obliged, Mr. Warburton, if you'd keep your correct position. You walked upstage of me last
That is untrue.
You call me a liar.
You moved downstage. You did it deliberately. You can't deny it.
I am not answerable to you, sir.
You would prefer to answer to Mr. Garrick.
Oh, Mr. Garrick. We all know who his toadies are.
Do you refer to me, Mr. Barry?
Gentlemen, quiet, please. The audience will hear you.
Garrick is a master of his craft, sir. He has advanced the dignity of his profession.
He's a very sprightly writer, too.
And all this supported by great wealth of his own acquisition. If all this had happened to me, I should have had a couple of fellas with long poles walking before me to knock down everybody that stood in the way. Yet, Garrick speaks to us, was he?
Oh, he's a very good man. A charitable man.
No, nay more. A liberal man. He's given away more money than any man in England. There may be a little vanity mixed, but he has shown that money is not his first object.
Yet Foote used to say of him that he walked out intending to do a generous action, but turning the corner of a street, he met with the ghost of a Hickney, which frightened him.
Why, sir, that's very true, too. I remember drinking tea with him long ago. Peg Woffington made it, and he grumbled at her for making it too strong. He then began to feel money in his purse and didn't know when he should have enough of it.
He has enough now, sir. There's no question.
Oh, he has much money, but not enough. No man ever had enough.
You're pleased to be cynical, sir.
No, sir. Veracious. If money purchased freedom from care, Davy would be a happy man. But he has his worries.
I hear there are troubles in the company.
Oh, there are always troubles in the company. Players are contentious folk. Barry, for instance, there's an overweening rogue.
Oh, they say Spranger Barry's a fine Macbeth.
Well, that we shall judge for ourselves tomorrow night. Come, we must bestir ourselves. It's nearly 9 o'clock. Davy promised to meet us at the Prince's Tavern after he'd seen the curtain rise.
Barry, this is too much. Last night the wrong cue, and tonight you cut my final speech completely.
A trifling error, Warburton. I always forget the naked frailty speech. I can't think why.
That's a lie, sir. You did it on purpose.
I find it hard to concentrate, sir, when I'm being upstaged. After all, I am the lead.
Oh, you admit it was deliberate?
I admit nothing of the sort. Now, kindly withdraw. You know this is my quick change.
I'll not be dismissed, sir. I demand an apology.
Mr. Warburton, sir. I am inexpressibly grieved by the loss of your immortal speech. Had you as many lines as you have hairs, I would not wish them a fairer death. Now, pray excuse me.
You're pleased to be flippant, sir. I see you're determined to provoke me.
The provocation is yours, sir. You presume on your reputation as a swordsman. You want a pretext, don't you? You seek my challenge so that you have a choice of weapons.
Why should I quarrel with you?
As to that, Mr. Warburton, you know best. Professional jealousy, perhaps?
Oh, no, sir. I know an inferior actor when I see one.
Well said, sir. And isn't the mirror your worst enemy? Then it must be personal jealousy.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, sir, your attitude to my wife.
What of your wife, Mr. Barry?
She does not relish your odious attentions.
Do you accuse me?
I am not accusing, Mr. Warburton. I am after stating a fact. Sure, it's a letter you are. A goat. A fumbler with other men's wives.
Oh, your wife flatters herself. I've no great desire to catch the pox.
Why,
you, I take it, are less fastidious.
Well, you damned scoundrel. Never take your soul. Is that good enough for you?
Thank you, Mr. Barry. That will do admirably. My seconds will call upon you.
Mr. Barry, Mr. Warburton, please. On stage for Act 3, Scene 1. Mr. Barry and Mr. Warburton, please.
Johnson, she said, you smell. No, madam, I replied, you smell. I stink. have a February face? What's amiss?
You may well ask. There's been more trouble with Rafferty. I've had to dismiss him. We'll have a new property master on Monday.
Rafferty, is he the one
He's
who...
the one who drinks, yes. He was blind drunk last night. Set the wrong goblet in the banquet scene. I had a special one made, you see, with a square base so it wouldn't roll.
Yeah.
Rafferty sets one with a round base. In comes Banquo's ghost. Spranger hurls down the cup. It rolls down stage, bounces over the footlights and cuts the eye of a footman standing in the pit. And what was Spranger's next line? Tell me that.
I know it, Davy. Thou hast no speculation in those eyes which thou dost glare with.
Exactly. And the whole house roared.
And who shall
Oh, confound Rafferty. Confound Macbeth. There are times when I hate it.
Oh, for shame, Davy. 'Tis a noble play.
It's a damned unlucky one, and there's an end on't. Consider this week. A drunken property master, George Warburton, and his gallantries. Tom and Meg Blunt fighting like the Kilkenny cats. And nothing but quarrels, fightings, tantrums and jealousies. Where's it all going to end?
Tom, you must leave the dressing room. I'll not quarrel with you during the play. How can I give a performance when I'm upset?
Devil take it, madam. A man has a right to know where his wife's been all day.
I've told you. I was at the market. Then I walked in the park.
Alone?
Yes, Tom, alone. Then I came straight here to the theatre.
And I must starve while you take your solitary walks abroad. What of your duty to your husband?
What, sir, of your duty to your wife?
How dare you mention that again? Just you listen to me.
No, Tom, you listen to me. I've had enough of your tantrums and jealousies. You can do as you please. Spend your time drinking with your cronies and playing cards with George Warburton with no thought for me. I must sit in our lodgings awaiting your beck and call. Well, I'll endure it no longer.
But you're my wife.
I'm an actress in my own right. I'm not just Mrs. Blunt. You know very well Mr. Garrick engaged you only because you're my husband.
That's a lie, madam. A monstrous lie. God's life, I was playing leads when you were wearing pinafores. I need no assistance from you.
You make that very plain. It's not a wife you require, but a slave. Well, I'll not be treated like that.
Once and for all, Meg.
Oh, let me go. You're hurting my arm.
Listen to what I say, woman.
Are you coming? Oh, forgive me, I didn't mean to intrude.
It's all right, George. Tom and I have finished our little talk. Go on, Tom. You mustn't keep the cards waiting, must you?
As you please, madam. We'll discuss it later.
Yes.
Come on, George.
Now then, listen.
End of the intermission, ladies and gentlemen. End of the intermission. Act 4, please. Act 4. End of the intermission.
Playing very small tonight, Mr. Payne.
Damn me, Warburton. I've no option.
Right, gentlemen. This turn wins. And it's...
Good God.
Oh, damned hard luck, Payne. 9 of hearts. Ah, that's a sovereign for Blunt.
Oh, thank you.
2 shillings from Payne.
You had the devil's own luck, Blunt.
Lucky in cards and in love, eh, Tom?
Yes.
Oh, what's the matter? Look like you've seen a ghost.
It's nothing, George. Nothing.
Very well.
No, I'm all right. Come on, make haste. Payne's on stage in a few minutes' time.
Ah, yes, there he is. Well, here's your chance, Mr. Payne. Last 4 cards in the case. Bottom one's in hock. Call for the next 3?
No, thank you.
Oh, come on, man. Don't forget the house pays 4 to 1.
If I win, and takes 5 to 1 if I lose.
Oh, come, so be a man. Faint heart never won Pharaoh.
Warburton, how much am I in?
Let's see. I've got the reckoning here somewhere. Yes, well, I'll make it £18 7 shillings.
What?
Well, it's here. You can see for yourself.
Good God, man, I didn't realise. I can't.
Can't what, Mr. Payne?
I can't go on. That's my limit.
Oh, come, Mr. Payne. Surely you can go a little further.
I'll make you an offer. Double or quits on the last 3.
I daren't.
Oh, come on, man. Here are the cards already played. It's got to be 3 out of the remaining 4.
Yes, but in what order?
Oh, I'll double the odds in your favour.
How?
Call the turn. Go on, call. Then I'll tell you what I'll do.
Ace, 10 and king.
I'll give you double or quits for 2 aces and a 10.
A generous offer, Mr. Payne.
Are you on?
Very well. Turn up the cards.
Ace. Ace. King.
Oh, God. I'm broke. I can't pay.
Those who can't pay don't play, Mr. Payne. And you played.
I don't understand it. That king was played earlier.
Oh, nonsense, Mr. Payne. You could see for yourself. It wasn't on display.
That's what I don't understand.
Do you accuse Warburton of dishonesty? Do you call him a cheat, sir?
I don't know. Oh, God.
Oh, come, Mr. Payne, this won't do. A gentleman pays his gambling debts.
What am I to do? You'll have to accept a note.
A word of warning, Mr. Payne. The last time I had to employ debt collectors, they went about the business rather clumsily, indeed brutally. An actor whose face is his fortune wouldn't want anything to do with them, I assure you.
I'm broke, I tell you.
Mr. Riley, Mr. Payne, Mr. Douglas on stage, please, for Act 5, Scene 2. Mr. Riley, Mr. Payne, Mr. Douglas, please, Act 5, Scene 2.
Let's discuss it in the morning, Mr. Payne. Don't miss your call.
You must excuse me, gentlemen.
Of course.
Oh, poor little Mr. Payne, a lamb to the slaughter.
Don't push him too hard, George.
Why not? He'll pay. Gad, he must. There are precious few chickens left to be plucked in this company.
And what will poor Robin do then, poor thing?
Why, then we go elsewhere. What do you say to Bath or Dublin?
Wherever you like. So long as we split 50-50.
50-50 it is, Tom, as always. Drinks, winnings, women. We've always played fair with each other. That is, until you got married.
We can still share drinks and winnings, George.
Aye, so we can. Do you never wonder, Tom, why Duncan and Banquo get murdered so early in the play?
No, George. Why?
Well, so that they can relieve young Mr. Payne of his hard-won cash at Faro.
The lines must flow. They must roll off the tongue. Shakespeare wrote in verse, not in prose.
Yeah, very true, Davy, but he also wrote sense, and the sense is as important as the sound.
But the player's first purpose is to please the ear.
The players, sir, have got a kind of rant with which they run on without any regard either to accent or emphasis.
Oh, come, Johnson, this is to deny them intelligence.
I simply affirm that actors are creatures of habit. There is a tradition of declaiming lines which they accept slavishly, without thought for the significance of what is spoken.
You're pleased to be sarcastic.
Well, now, I'll give you something to speak, with which you're little acquainted. Then we shall see how just my observation is. That shall be the criterion. Let me hear you repeat the 9th commandment. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Now, come, Bossy, you first.
Why, it is perfectly simple. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour.
Yeah, so, now, Davy.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour.
Oh, very fine, very rhythmical. But where's the sense?
Well, the sense is obvious.
Aye, but it needs emphasis. Now, what are the significant words? They are not and false witness. The line must be, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. Rhythm must defer to sense.
That's very true, sir.
Isn't it so, David?
I'll make a bargain with you. Do you not advise me on the dramatic art, and I'll not write a dictionary.
Well said, Davy. Let the cobbler keep to his last. Well, shall we see you tomorrow night?
Aye. We'll meet here at the Prince's Tavern after the performance. There are 2 seats for you in the circle. Bates will attend to you.
We look forward to the play with anticipation.
I hope you won't be disappointed.
Tell me, David, how is your new juvenile faring?
Oh, Bossy.
The little Siddons? Oh, there's another bad bargain.
Oh, they say she's very beautiful.
Well, maybe. But she'll never make an actress.
Good night, David. Oh, he's in a black mood tonight.
A man whose fortune depends on popular acclaim stands ever on the edge of a precipice.
He didn't take kindly to your instruction.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbour. Actors and clergymen, Bozzy, actors and clergymen, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Mrs. Blunt, I'll not be spoken to like that. It's always fitted perfect.
It doesn't fit now. You'll have to alter it.
I can't go altering costumes every day. You'll have to do it yourself.
You're the wardrobe mistress. It's your job.
When I made that costume a month ago, it was a perfect fit. You said so yourself. It's you what's put on weight.
Damn your eyes, you stupid old cow!
Oh! Well, really? Whatever next? 20 years in the business and no one ever spoke to me like that before.
Oh. Hello, Binny. All finished for tonight?
Oh, just about, Miss Sarah.
Oh, what's the matter? You look upset.
Well, it's that Mrs. Blunt. I don't know what's come over her. She comes raging in here. Binny, you stupid bitch, she says. What have you done to my costume? It doesn't fit, she says. Well, in a proper state she was. Well, it's nothing to do with me. I ain't touched her costume.
Oh, she's not herself. She's got something on her mind.
Well, I must say, there's no way to carry on. Well, after all, everyone's got their troubles.
Oh, well, don't be too upset, Binny. Oh. I'm sure she didn't mean it. She'll be round first thing tomorrow to apologise. Just you see.
Well, Garrick certainly can't complain about the takings. There isn't an empty seat.
Macbeth is a popular play, sir, and Springer Barry has his adherents.
Well, we shall soon see if he deserves their loyalty. Here they come to illuminate the footlights.
How far that little candle throws his beams.
So shines a good deed in a naughty world.
When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain?
When the hurly-burly is done, when the battle's lost and won.
Barry's in good voice tonight.
Aye, sir, he has the grand manner. He has an air of command, but his performance lacks sensitivity. It's scarcely surprising. Davy claims that Macbeth's an impossible part to perform.
In what respect?
Why, sir, he's several characters all rolled into one. He's a successful soldier and so impervious to human suffering. Yet he is also a poet, a man of sentiment and sentiments. He sees visions. He has scruples. He lacks the singleness of purpose exhibited by his wife. The visionary and the man of action are scarcely reconcilable.
Well, sir, I played the role when I was at university. It never presented me with any difficulty.
Why, Bozzy, that says much for your command of the histrionic art. We must tell Davy that his doubts are unfounded.
His horses go about almost a mile. But he does usually, so all men do. From hence to the palace gate, make it their walk.
A light! A light! 'Tis he! Stand to it.
It will be rain tonight.
Let it come down!
Oh, treachery! Oh!
Who did strike out the light? Was not the way? There's but one down. The sun is fled. We have lost this half of our affair.
Well, let's away and say how much is done.
Oh, well, Bozzy, what do you think of that?
I thought it was a most unconvincing scene.
Oh, yet Warburton's a good actor.
Whoever saw a murdered man fall like that? He toppled over like a tree.
Oh, have you ever seen a man murdered, sir?
Well, no, sir, but I never saw it done like that on the stage before. And there was a pause, as if someone had missed a line.
You're right, sir. Banquo bids Fleance escape and revenge.
He must have forgotten.
Something's amiss, Bozzy. See, Davy's coming through the curtains.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I beg your indulgence. There has been a mishap. Mr. Warburton has suffered an injury. Ladies and gentlemen, quiet, please. Quiet! I beg you.
Come, Bossy. We must go behind the scenes. Davy needs help.
I just can't believe it.
Clear the stage, please, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, Mr. Blunt. Please clear the stage.
I was talking to him only half an hour ago, and he's dead.
Carry him to the green room. Carefully now. Stand back there, please, ladies and gentlemen. Clear the stage.
You're quite sure he's dead, Forbes?
Yes, sir, no doubt about it.
Where's Rafferty? Has anyone seen Rafferty?
He was on stage a few minutes ago.
Find him. All of you. Search the theatre from cellar to roof.
Yes, sir.
Off with you. Oh, Samuel Bossy, almighty God, what a calamity. Did you see it happen?
Aye, Davy, we saw it.
Aye, we did. It was the third murderer.
Who plays the part?
Rafferty. Now he's disappeared.
Mr. Garrick, he's here. Rafferty, come quickly. Fetch a light, someone. Over here, under the staircase.
Here he is, sir. I was going to the wardrobe and I seen his feet sticking out. Oh, look, he's covered in blood.
Stand back there, get back. Oh, good God. He's dead, too.
No, he isn't. He twitched. He's unconscious.
Let me see. Hold the light. He's intoxicated, sir. The man's insensible with drink.
You're right, Johnson. Here, hold the light closer. Blood on his face and cloak. And what's this? A dagger. Here, take it, Bossy.
Oh, you must excuse me, Garrick. All this blood. I feel altogether squeamish.
Infirm on purpose. Give me the dagger.
Here, Forbes. Get two fellows. Have Rafferty out of there and put him in a tub of water. I want to hear what he has to say. And send for the watch. Quickly now.
Yes, sir. Nathaniel, John, lend a hand.
Oh, Samuel, Bossy. We need a drink. There's a bottle of brandy in my room. I'll come to you in a few minutes.
But this dagger, Davy, what kind of injury could this inflict? The blade is obtunded and the end is rounded.
Here, let me see. Well, this is just a property dagger. It's not only blunted, the blade retracts into the handle.
Well, how is that?
Well, it appears to go into the victim, Bossy. Here, see for yourself.
Ah, how very ingenious. So, if I stab the table... Oh.
Good God. It isn't working. Give it to me. Look, Samuel, the blade's immovable. It's rusted up.
So, if a man struck with sufficient force, it would transfix the victim.
It would indeed.
A dangerous property,
It's
David.
dangerous, all right. We've nearly had accidents before. Rafferty's supposed to inspect all the daggers each night to ensure that they work.
And what if they don't?
Why, he throws them away.
He didn't throw this one away.
So, Rafferty gets drunk, picks up a faulty dagger and stabs Warburton to death. What a terrible mischance.
What did I tell you? Macbeth's a confoundedly unlucky play.
A disputable hypothesis, sir.
How can you say that? Doesn't this prove it?
Well, you surely don't suggest, sir, that this was anything but an accident.
I suggest nothing, sir, but certain facts mystify me. Where were you, Davy, when this accident occurred?
In here, doing the accounts.
So you didn't witness the stabbing?
No. Forbes fetched me after the curtain fell.
But the entire audience saw it happen. Bossy, how many times was Warburton stabbed?
Once.
And where was he stabbed?
In the chest.
In the chest, Davy. Once.
What of it, Johnson?
Where was Banquo stabbed, and how often?
I see. In the head. The head.
Aye, my good lord. Safe in the ditch he bides with 20 trenchant gashes on his head.
In fact, I directed Rafferty to strike first between the shoulder blades, and then, when Warburton fell, the murderers closed around him and made to stab his head.
But Rafferty was drunk, so he stabbed him in the chest.
Rafferty was so drunk, sir, that he was unconscious 3 minutes later. How could he have struck a fatal blow?
But we saw him do it.
Saw whom?
Why, Rafferty, to be sure. Oh, come, Johnson, we saw him quite plainly.
No, sir, we did not. We saw a figure hooded and cloaked like the other two.
But the dagger, the blood on his cloak and face, it must have been Rafferty.
Oh, indeed. And it must have been the groom, sir, who killed Duncan in the play. Hey, Davy.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt. I shall go and talk to Forbes and Mrs. Siddons. I have some questions to ask.
Yes, do so. Meanwhile, Bossy, you and I'll take a stroll on the stage and behind the scenes. Maybe our scrutiny will offer a hint to the mystery.
Let observation with extensive view survey the stage, perchance to yield a clue.
Bossy, you impudent scoundrel! Will you improve my own writings for me? You're nothing better than an iconoclast, sir. But how did you come to be in the wings, Mrs. Binion?
Oh, well, sir, I was here in the wardrobe room minding my own business. Then there was this scream. Oh, it was horrible, Dr. Johnson, horrible.
Yeah.
Turned me bones to a jelly. I ran out down the corridor, and there he was, in the middle of the stage, weltering in his gore. Oh, if you'll pardon the expression.
Who else was in the wings?
Well, just Mrs. Siddons. Oh, and Mr. Blunt. He'd been with me in the wardrobe room. I was mending his costume. Ripped his cloak on a nail, he did. Just as he made his exit through the upstage arch. Shocking tear. Right through to his small clothes.
Oh, dear me.
He comes straight round to me at the end of Act 1. I'll have something to say to Mr. Forbes about that archway.
You didn't perceive anyone else loitering in the wings?
No, sir. Oh, of course, there was Mr. Barry and Mrs. Dancer and the rest of them over the other side.
Yeah.
Only I couldn't see them clearly, what with my eyes, and being upset by that scream.
It's been a great shock. Great shock to everyone, Mrs. Binion.
Terrible business, Mr. Boswell. But there you are, Macbeth again. Nothing but bad luck. And the work for wardrobe and properties you wouldn't believe. All them helmets, whiskers and red pigtails, all.
You have an onerous responsibility, madam. The theatre is indebted to you.
And so are we. Now we shall bid you good night. Mr. Boswell and I will retrace our labyrinthine way to the stage.
Oh, you can get out this way, sir.
Oh?
Well, if you don't mind stepping round the Ampers. Through that door, straight through the property room, and there you are.
Thank you, Mr. Binion.
Your servant, madam. You have been most accommodating.
Oh, it's a pleasure, sir.
But, Forbes, why weren't you here in the prompt corner as usual?
I was underneath the stage, sir. The cordon trap's been sticking again. I'd just gone down to inspect it.
So you were holding the book, Mrs. Siddons?
Yes, Mr. Garrick.
Did you see what happened on stage?
No, sir. I noticed that George Warburton missed his line. When I brought the curtain down, he didn't get up. He just lay there. There was blood. Real blood. I screamed.
Who else was in the wings?
Mr. and Mrs. Barry and the others in the banquet scene. They were on the far side.
Yes, of course. But your side, prompt side.
There was no one else, sir.
You're sure of that?
Quite sure. When I screamed, Mr. Forbes hastened up the ladder. Then a minute or so later, I saw Binny and Mr. Blunt.
I see. Well, thank you, Mrs. Siddons.
Thank you.
Now then, Forbes. I want a statement from everyone in the company. Everyone. Where they were when Warburton was killed, who was with them, and so forth.
But it was an accident, sir.
How can you be so positive?
Well, Mr. Garrick, sir, you surely don't suggest it was a deliberate act?
Who's to say, Mr. Forbes, until we've questioned the entire company? Let me have your report by tomorrow afternoon.
As you wish, sir.
Oh, and I want to inspect that cauldron trap. Now. We've trouble enough on our hands. We don't want any more. Fetch your lantern, will you? Oh, there you are, Johnson. Bosy.
David?
Have you ever been beneath the stage?
No, David.
There's a trapdoor giving trouble. Come and have a look at it. This way. You'll have to take care down the ladder. Bosy first. Right. Now you, Johnson.
Oh, Lord. Where Virgil was wrong. Davy, non facilis descensissimo.
Aye, Johnson. And to recall thy step and issue to the upper air. Hoc opus hic labor est.
There you see, Dr. Johnson, the actor stands on this platform here and is drawn upwards by means of the Pulliam drum operated by a stagehand.
A long hall?
Oh, yes, Mr. Boswell. It's a good 15 feet.
But how does the actor pass through the stage floor?
The trap door is immediately above us.
Ah, yeah.
It's hinged, you see, and kept in place by a bolt. When I pull a rope in the prompt corner, the bolt is withdrawn and the trap falls open by its own weight.
A weight that must be considerable. Doesn't the noise interrupt the performance?
We disguise it with a roll of thunder, Boswell.
A simple mechanism, I perceive. Well, what then is the dilemma?
The trap doesn't always open when I draw the bolt. If you'll hold the ladder, Mr. Garrick, I'll take a closer look.
Up you go, Forbes. Here's the lantern.
If the trapdoor fails to open when the bolt is withdrawn, there can be but one reason. There's been some expansion.
Do you say that the wood has swollen?
I mean, sir, that if the door is not infibulated by the bolt, then it must be compaginated by some tumefaction of the timbers.
Yes, I see.
I see what's happened, Mr. Garrick. The trap has come away from the lintel. One of the hinges is loose. Indeed, the wood's quite rotten.
You must set the carpenter to it tomorrow morning.
I'll instruct him to patch it up, sir.
Patch it?
Well, we need to put in a whole new beam.
Well, why can't he do that tomorrow?
We'll have to strike the scenery, sir. We can't do that before Sunday. We shall make it safe until then.
Now, do you promise that?
Oh, yes, sir.
Let's see, who uses this trap?
Oh, only second and third apparitions in Act 4. Mrs. Siddons and Mrs. Metcalfe.
And what about the armed head? Hobson, isn't it?
Oh, he uses the OP trap, sir. That's quite safe.
Well, you must tell Mrs. Siddons and Mrs. Metcalfe. You'd better warn the whole company.
Yes, very good, sir.
Confound old trapdoors. They're always giving trouble.
Wasn't there an accident some years ago?
There was indeed. Charlie Beaumont in '64.
Charles Beaumont.
Trap gave way and he broke his neck. And there have been others.
A gruesome thought, sir. I'm becoming a prey to morbid imaginings. Come, Bozzy. We'll leave Davy and Mr. Forbes to their deliberations.
Don't forget, Davy, we dine at the Thrales tomorrow night. We shall take a carriage to Streatham. May we call for you here at 7 o'clock?
I'll oblige you. Good night, you both.
Good night, Davy.
Good night.
And his brush was working like... Oh, certainly. Here you are, Johnson.
Bozzy. Another pot, if you please.
Thank you, my friend. I've just come from the theatre. The whole company's in a turmoil. Mrs. Binion had hysterics twice last night and thrice this morning. Blunt's inconsolable at the loss of his boon companion, and Rafferty's lodged in the roundhouse. He's to go before the magistrate on Monday to answer a charge of culpable homicide.
Has he made any admission of guilt?
Yeah, well, he admits to taking a drink in the property room. After that, he remembers nothing.
Culpable homicide, so it's believed to have been a mishap.
So say the watch, but there are all kinds of rumours running round the company. I believe your suspicions are justified.
Oh, I suspect nothing, sir, but I question everything.
You have reason, sir. Forbes told me in the strictest confidence he believes it was deliberate murder.
Murder? By whom?
You'll be astounded, sir. It was Barry.
Spranger Barry? Oh, I'll not believe it.
He quarrelled with Warburton in his dressing room on Wednesday. Barry accused Warburton of molesting his wife and struck him. They were to fight a duel tomorrow morning in Hyde Park. Forbes was to be Warburton's second.
Barry and Warburton to fight a duel?
Warburton was a formidable swordsman. He's already killed 2 men. Everybody knew that.
So, Barry took steps to ensure that Warburton would miss the assignation in Hyde Park tomorrow morning.
Exactly. Your mystery's solved. Thank you.
And how will you prove it?
Why, sir, it's not for me to prove it. I, of course, shall do my duty as a citizen. I'm to take coffee with Sarah Siddons in the green room at 11 o'clock. Then I shall... Yes. Then I shall go to Bow Street and lodge information with the watch. They must take what action they please.
Barry's a blustering fellow, to be sure, but that he would commit a cold-blooded murder. That strains my credulity.
He's an Irishman, sir.
So?
Well, Irishmen are contentious folk.
But Barry, with other compatriots of his, was ever one to promise more than he performed.
He had a motive, sir. You'll not deny that.
That's true. Jealousy is a strong motive for murder. No one but a lunatic ever killed without a motive. But a murderer needs something else, Bozzy.
What's that?
Opportunity.
He had ample opportunity.
Oh, did he? Did he indeed? Study the play, Bozzy. Study the play. Then go and lodge your information at Bow Street.
Everybody says your performance of Portia was exquisite, Mrs. Siddons.
You're a flatterer, sir. I failed miserably.
Oh, I'll not believe it, ma'am. And I wish Macbeth offered equal scope for your talents.
It's an ill-starred production, Mr. Boswell, and the company's an unhappy one. People are quarrelsome and spiteful.
Aren't they so in all theatrical companies?
Oh, there are a few such wherever you go. But here in London, at the Pinnacle, people are fighting for their existence. It's like a mountain summit. A few hardy souls have struggled to the top, where they jostle and shove. Each can only keep his place by pushing someone else over the edge. The art of survival comes before the art of the theatre.
Well, that's an uncomfortable thought. It had never occurred to me. You must find it disconcerting, for I perceive you're a very sensitive person.
Oversensitive, Mr. Boswell. But I'm growing a lobster shell of indifference to protect me from all but the most disarming companions.
Of whom I hope you'll regard me as one. If I can be of service to you at any time, I do hope you'll call upon me.
Oh, you're very kind. I confess, I felt lonely since I came to London. Lonely and frightened.
Frightened?
There are undercurrents of feeling in the company. There are mishaps. Every time I step onto the cauldron trap, I fear another accident. And now, last night, it was horrible.
My dear, it's but natural you should feel like this. Count on me for assistance, I beg you. Tonight, Dr. Johnson, Mr. Garrick and I are engaged to dine at Streatham, but tomorrow and subsequently I am free to devote myself entirely to your interests, should you require me.
Thank you, Mr. Boswell. I'm greatly obliged to you.
Item, a snuff box. Item, a purse containing 6 guineas. Item, a handkerchief. Have you got that, Mr. Forbes?
A handkerchief? Yes, Mr. Blunt.
Item, a pocket knife. Item, 3 papers, 2 bills, and... Oh, here, what's this?
Now, let me see.
It's no good. I can't endure it. George lies dead, and here we are in his dressing room making an inventory of his possessions as if he'd never lived. I can't bear it anymore. You'll have to finish the job yourself.
I understand, Blunt, but this note...
Oh, destroy it.
I can't do that. It's part of his estate.
Burn it. It'll only cause trouble.
It's a serious matter.
Serious? You call this serious when George is dead?
I sympathise with your feelings, sir, but I think I ought to show this to Mr. Garrick.
What's it got to do with him?
Payne's a member of the company. I think Mr. Garrick ought to know.
Do you really think so?
Yes, I do, and I should take it to him straight away.
Oh, very well, if you insist, but I think it's a mistake. Much better to burn it and forget all about it.
unimprovable. Esther, I drink your health. May your eyes and your wit never lose their sparkle.
Thank you, James. Very nicely put. Mr. Thrale and I rejoice in your company tonight, all of you. Davy, fresh from his triumphs at the theatre, and Samuel and James, the most engaging companions in London. We believe our greatest good fortune is in our friends.
It is not a question of fortune, madam. Friendship doesn't happen by chance. It must be made. And being made has to be kept in constant repair.
Now, David,
say what you will, the play has an ugly reputation. Accidents, injuries, even fatalities have happened over and over again.
Could it not be that mishaps attract our attention only when they occur in Macbeth? That when they happen in other plays, nobody notices
I
them?
doubt it, ma'am. I very much doubt it.
To prove your hypothesis, I should want a list of all the mishaps in every play performed in London during the past 5 years. If Macbeth then showed a preponderance out of all proportion to the rest, I'd be inclined to agree with you.
Surely, Davy, if you believe in good or ill luck, you admit to being a fatalist. Would you deny the existence of free will?
Nay, Henry, I've no opinion about that. But actors are superstitious folk. They live on their nerves. For instance, I give a surpassing performance on one night.
Every night, Davy.
No, Henry, this is my point. One night, I excel. And the next night, exactly the same performance, I fail completely. Now, why, I ask? Then I think back, and I remember. I whistled in the green room, or I broke a mirror. Somehow, I've offended the fates that rule the theatre.
Oh, this, sir, is sheer pagan superstition. Every effect has its cause. We must attribute these events to some human agency. To believe otherwise is to court disaster.
Well, how can that be?
Why, the moment Davy fears ill luck, he becomes vulnerable.
Samuel...
He walks on stage expecting some catastrophe, almost willing it to happen.
But you'll admit that accidents do occur.
Oh, by all means, Henry.
And you'll not deny that Warburton's death was accidental.
As to that, sir, I'll not commit myself to an opinion.
But, Johnson, you said last night...
Sir, we have our suspicions. You, Davy, and I, we have our suspicions, but that does not mean that we know.
Well, we're not the only ones to suspect. The rumour goes round the coffee houses that it was murder. Warburton was very unpopular.
If we're to murder everyone that's unpopular, London would be another Golgotha.
A rumour won't do, Bossy. We need certainty.
Well, I assume we can discount Rafferty for one. He was unconscious with drink.
He only appeared to be unconscious, Bossy. If he'd been sober, you must agree that he had the opportunity.
Aye, Johnson, but not the motive. Not the motive. Don't forget, opportunity and motive. That's what you said.
Admirably reasoned, Bossy. Very well. We agree to exculpate Rafferty.
As for Barry, he had motive enough, but no opportunity. I took your advice, Johnson. I studied the play.
And what did you find?
Why, that Barry was on stage at the end of the previous scene and again at the start of the succeeding one. He couldn't possibly have crossed the stage in time to disguise himself and enter with the other murderers.
Yeah, so we assume that Rafferty and Sprenger Barry are above suspicion.
Aye.
You've been very silent, Davy. What do you think? Do you still say it was a mischance?
No, I don't. I believe it was murder. And I believe I know the guilty man's identity.
Indeed.
In heaven's name, man, who was it?
Forbes brought me a paper just before I left. He found it in Warburton's pocket. It was a promissory note for £36, signed by Jeremy Payne.
Payne?
Yes, it was Payne. He'd lost money to Warburton at cards. He couldn't pay. He was frightened of what George could do to him.
Well, there's your murderer, Johnson. And Jeremy doesn't come on stage until the banquet scene. Motive and opportunity. Don't you agree, Davy?
Aye, Bozzy. I'm afraid I do agree.
Well, what will you do, Davy?
Do? Well, I must have a talk with Mr. Payne in the morning.
assure you, Mr. Garrick, I had every intention of paying Warburton.
The road to hell, Mr. Payne, is notoriously paved with good intentions.
But you must believe me. I don't mind admitting to you, sir, that I was frightened of him.
He was a dangerous man to cross.
He threatened to send his bully boys to call on me.
Oh, did he? It looks to me, Mr. Payne, as if Warburton's death came at an opportune moment for you.
I'll not deny, sir. Why, what do you mean? Do you accuse me?
I make no accusations, Mr. Payne, yet. But you must admit that you stood to gain by his death.
Why, that's a monstrous implication. I'd never do such a thing. You must believe me.
Mr. Payne, I don't know what to believe. But you must understand that you'll be obliged to give a very exact account of your movements on Thursday night.
I'm fully prepared to do that,
I'm
sir.
glad to hear it.
You'll note, sir, that Mr. Blunt is still alive.
I should hope so. What of it?
I gave him a note as well.
What? You owed him money, too?
Why, yes. Didn't he tell you?
How much?
The same amount. £36.
Oh, really, Mr. Payne? How did you come to lose such sums?
They both offered me double or quits on different turns of the last 3 cards in the box.
Took the wager?
Well, yes, it was 2-1 in my favour.
Mr. Payne, your innocence appalls me. You have much to learn. Not only about acting, but about cards. I cannot believe that anyone would be so gullible. You fell among thieves, Mr. Payne. What is it?
It's the officer of the watch, sir. He'd like a word with you.
Mr. Garrick, you're not having me arrested.
Oh, Gad's life, no, sir. That may come later, not now. Haven't I got enough to plague me this morning? All right, Forbes. Show him in.
Yes, sir.
And you, Mr. Payne, wait in the green room.
Yes, sir.
I want to know more about your game of faro.
We have a statement here, Mr. Garrick, made by one Seamus Rafferty, currently lodged in the Roundhouse. Now, you're his employer, I believe.
That is correct.
Well, Rafferty's admitted to stealing certain sums of money, itemised below, from the box office of the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane, between the dates 5th and 18th April of this year, 1776. Now, this admission has been written down at his dictation, signed by him and witnessed by the magistrate at number 6 Bow Street.
I understand.
Well, now, sir, were you aware that these thefts had taken place?
I really don't see that it's any affair of yours, officer.
Pardon me, sir, but it is. You see, if you knew about these thefts and didn't report them to the magistrate, then you've compounded a felony.
I am not making any statement to you, officer, without consulting my attorney.
Well, Rafferty says you knew what he'd done, and you made up the loss out your own pocket and told him to keep his mouth shut.
If the loss was made good, mind you, I'm not admitting anything, but if the loss was made good, then where's the felony? I'm not making any charges.
Ah, well, you see, sir, there's something else. Rafferty says that this Mr. Warburton got to know.
Who's there? Who is it? Who is it?
Why, Meg. Meg Blunt. What are you doing alone in the green room at this time in the morning? What is it, dear? What's the matter?
It's nothing, Sarah.
Oh, please, Meg, please tell me. Are you sick?
No, it's nothing. Leave me alone, please.
Oh, come on, dear. Dry your eyes. Tell me what it is.
I can't.
You must. Tell me. Tell Sarah. Is it Thomas? Have you had another fall? Tell me. Tell Sarah.
I can't. I daren't.
Let me help.
There's nothing you can do.
How do you know?
Nobody can help.
Oh, trust me, Meg. Please trust me.
I can't. It'll only put you in danger, too.
Danger? What danger?
Oh, please go away. Please leave me alone.
Well, you needn't worry about me. I can look after myself. Meg, you must tell me.
You won't understand.
How can I if you won't tell me what it is? Come on, dear. You must share the burden.
I just don't know where to start.
Good morning, Bossy.
Good morning, my friend.
As you observe, I'm engaged in the dusty business of putting my books in order.
You put me in mind, sir, of my uncle, Dr. Boswell's description of you. A robust genius born to grapple with whole libraries.
Grappling with libraries is exhausting work, sir. I'll come down. Your interruption is welcome. The task was becoming irksome. Well, there, move the volumes off that chair, Bossie. Be seated, be seated.
I've got great news, Johnson. The mystery's solved. It was Rafferty after all.
Oh, indeed, so? I thought we'd absolved him for lack of motive.
Ah, but he had a motive. Listen to this. The officer of the watch has been talking with Davy. Rafferty's confessed to stealing money from the box office earlier this year. Davy wanted the matter kept secret, but Warburton found out and was blackmailing Rafferty, threatened to report him to the justices. Rafferty admits he was getting desperate. He was losing half his weekly pay by extortion.
But has he admitted to the murder?
Why, no, not yet, but isn't it obvious? He had motive and opportunity. He had only to sham drunkenness. Well, anyone can do that, and after all, he'd had plenty of practice. It's Rafferty without a doubt.
Bossie, let us examine this business critically and objectively. Now, firstly, let us dispose of fatalism. It is an hypocrisy of misery. What has this affair to do with liberty and necessity? Accidents happen in Macbeth, but in other plays, too. Do you suppose that Warburton would be alive now if he'd been appearing in Hamlet?
No, sir, of course not.
No, very well. Now, consider the play. Duncan is murdered. The regicide seeks to conceal his guilt by placing suspicion on drunken servants. He then has Banquo assassinated. And here we come to the mystery of the third murderer.
Well, what's so mysterious about him?
Why, sir, he shouldn't be there at all. See for yourself. Well, there. Here's a copy of the play. There, now, read me the opening lines of Act 3, Scene 3.
Act 3, Scene 1, Scene 2, 3, yes. Enter three murderers. First murderer, but who did bid thee join with us? Third murderer, Macbeth. Second murderer, he needs not our mistrust, since he delivers our offices and what we have to do to the direction just.
Macbeth has already planned the deed with the first two villains. They do not expect a third accomplice, and are surprised when he appears.
Well, you're right, Johnson. I never realized that before.
So, despite careful preparation, a third murderer joins the other two ruffians. And someone extinguishes the torch, enabling Fleance to escape and the witch's prophecy to be fulfilled.
Very suspicious circumstance.
It is indeed. Oh, the critics have wrangled endlessly about the identity of the third murderer. Some say it was Macbeth himself, come to see that the task was faithfully accomplished. Others claim he was one of the witches, sent to ensure failure.
Very well, Johnson. I grant you have a very pretty conundrum here, but what has it to do with the tragedy of Thursday night?
Why, sir, anyone familiar with the play knows that this obscurity could conceal the identity of a real murderer.
But what about those playing the other parts?
Oh, we'll inquire of Davy. I think we shall find that the minor characters are enacted by such stage hands as were available.
If so, the parts may be taken by different men on different nights.
Exactly. So, Bossie, we have a play that is notoriously unlucky. It contains a murderer whose identity is cloaked even to his colleagues. And the chief protagonist diverts suspicion from himself by means of a drugged posset and a blood-stained dagger. Now, these facts would weigh powerfully with anyone who held George Warburton in hatred or fear.
They would indeed.
And we know of at least 3 men who had a motive for murdering him. May not others in the company harbor such a grudge in secret? Delve into the innermost heart of every man, Bossie. I ask you, how many would you find uncontaminated by the innate proclivity of Cain?
Well, that is a very disturbing thought, sir. It means, moreover, that we must revert to suspecting the entire company.
It does indeed, Buzzy. Let us visit Davy and subject Forbes's report to further scrutiny. Then, logic, to thy work. Take thou what course thou wilt.
It's a common enough practice, Johnson. Fewer walking gentlemen I have to pay, the better I'm pleased. The stage assistants carry spears, take small parts, and join in crowd scenes.
Do they interchange parts?
How do you mean, Bozzy?
Could the third murderer be played one night by John Doe and the next night by Richard Roe?
Oh, yes, indeed. It's a practice I tried to stop at one time. I even fined them for it, but they got the better of me. John Doe would be required by the stage management, or he was ill, so Richard Roe walked on for it.
While John Doe recovered from his indisposition in the nearest hostelry.
Exactly.
I see. Now for the evidence. Now, what, briefly, is the disposition of the premises behind the scenes, Davy?
Well, sir, above the stage is the fly loft. At stage level on the OP side...
the OP, that's opposite prompt?
Correct. The audience is left side. On the OP side, there are the wings, and behind them, the green room and the scenery store. On the other side...
the prompt side?
Where else? The dressing rooms and this room are on the first floor. At stage level, the wings, property room,
and the wardrobe room.
And the wardrobe room. These are entered from the corridor running from the prompt corner to the stage door.
But there's also a way from the wardrobe to the stage via the property room. Mrs. Binion directed.
So she did, Buzzy.
Now, according to Forbes's report, Haggard, Crane, and Edwards confirm each other's presence in the fly loft. In the first floor dressing rooms, Jeremy Payne.
Does anyone corroborate that?
No, Bozzy. At stage level, Binney and Blunt were in the wardrobe room. Backstage, we have Rafferty, unconscious under the staircase. Opposite prompt, Barry, Mrs. Dancer, the stagehands, and the players for the banquet scene. Now, these are all vouched for. On the prompt side, visible to the others, it was Mrs. Siddons. On stage were Warburton, John, Nathaniel, and the murderer. In the green room, their testimonies agree with the rest of the company. And Forbes was underneath the stage.
And you, Davy, here in your room?
Yes. You have only my word for that.
So, you're a possible suspect.
Oh, possible, Bozzy, but improbable.
Thank you, Johnson, for your improbability.
So, apart from Davy, the only ones whose testimony is unsupported by others are Rafferty, Payne, and Forbes. Well, I tell you, it must have been Rafferty.
Do you agree, Davy?
No. I still think it was Payne.
You have reasons? Proof?
Reasons, but no proof.
Which could apply equally to Rafferty.
Agreed. What is your judgment?
My judgment, sir, is not yet formulated. I have, I confess, a strong suspicion amounting almost to certainty. But I have yet to make comprobation.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Come on, man. Well, tell us which of these three incur your suspicion.
No, sir.
Why not?
Your question, sir, does not admit of an answer. I suspect none.
Oh, for heaven's sake,
and for good reason. Consider this. No man with the ingenuity to plan this assassination would omit to fabricate an appearance of innocence. He would be at pains to establish the fact that he was elsewhere when the enormity was perpetrated.
But surely the converse does not prove his innocence.
No, by no means, but we may presuppose a strong probability in this case. Now, thus far will I be categorical with you. Our quarry is one whose movements are apparently accounted for. But he has made one mistake. Murder will out. Holy Writ and the classical authors are agreed that divine providence does not permit homicide to go untraced. Now, my suspect committed one error, made one statement unsubstantiated by the facts. Re-examine Forbes's report. Then let us consider how we may extrude a confession from the wretch, for we shall never prove his culpability save from his own lips.
Come in.
Forgive my intrusion, Mr. Garrick, but Mrs. Blunt has disappeared. She's nowhere to be found. She's due on stage in 30 minutes.
Oh, the devil. Have you searched the theatre?
Oh, yes, sir. We've looked everywhere. Mr. Blunt's distracted.
Well, send him to me, please. And you'd better ask Mrs. Metcalfe to take the part.
Yes, sir.
Oh, another confounded misfortune. Will the line stretch out to the crack of doom?
Poor Davy. When sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions.
Indeed, indeed.
Say that again.
What do you mean?
Go on, repeat what you just said.
When sorrows come, they come not single spies, but in battalions.
And where does the emphasis fall, sir?
What? I see. Well, I suppose on single.
Exactly.
They come not single spies.
Exactly. These misfortunes are not single or disjunct. They are interconnected. Why has Meg Blunt disappeared?
Really, Johnson, how should I know? She may have fallen out with her husband.
Davy?
I don't know. She may have been unhappy. She had a furious quarrel with the wardrobe mistress.
Why?
Well, on some trivial matter, she said her costume wouldn't fit.
Exactly. Her costume wouldn't fit.
What of it, sir?
Why wouldn't it fit?
Well, how can I tell?
The woman is pregnant, sir.
Pregnant? But that's impossible.
Why?
Well, because her husband is impotent.
Is no other man capable of making her pregnant?
Merciful heavens, Johnson, you don't suggest...
And if she is pregnant by another man, how can she face her husband? She's probably gone in search of an abortionist.
Mr. Garrick, sir, you must help me. I'm desperate. My wife has disappeared.
Yourself, Mr. Blunt. We shall do all we can to find your wife.
But she's left without a trace. No note, no message. She's never done this before.
Have you informed the watch?
Well,
Excuse me interrupting, sir.
No, Binny, if you please. I'll attend to you later.
It's urgent, sir. Very urgent. I've a note for Mr. Boswell from Mrs. Siddons.
Thank you, Mrs. Binion.
Well, she said to give it to him straight away.
Well...
Why? It's urgent, all right. She says...
We'll hear it later, Bossy. Let us first give our minds to Mr. Blunt's predicament.
But this may assist us.
No, not now, sir, not here.
Really, Johnson, I don't
Sir,
understand
I command you to be silent.
Dr. Johnson, sir, I defer willingly to your judgment in most matters, but in this instance you must allow me to know best.
Very well. You know best. Read us your message.
Dear Mr. Boswell, I must see you immediately after the performance. I know the answer that has eluded us, and I'm very apprehensive. Please come to the green room when the curtain falls. Signed, Sarah Siddons.
When did she give you this, Binny?
20 minutes ago, sir. Been looking for Mr. Boswell all over. Oh, Mr. Forbes told me he was with you.
Mr. Blunt, I believe your wife is friendly with Mrs. Siddons.
She is, sir.
Well, perhaps this will throw some light on her disappearance. Let's hope so. In the meantime...
Yeah, well, in the meantime, sir, I suggest we seek to elicit from the company where and when Mrs. Blunt was last seen.
I agree. And with your permission, Mr. Garrick, I'll go and inform the watch.
Do so by all means.
I hope I did right, Mr. Garrick.
Yes, Binny, you did the right thing. Now, you may go now.
No, madam. Wait, just a little.
Yes, sir?
Yes, there's something else.
Yes, sir?
You said Mr. Blunt was in the wardrobe room on Thursday night?
Oh, that's right, sir.
For how long?
Well, half an hour, sir.
Was it with you all the time?
Oh, yes, sir.
While you mended his costume?
That's right.
Why didn't he leave his cloak with you?
Oh, it wasn't just his cloak, sir. He ripped the skirt of his coat and his breeches, too.
His breeches were torn?
Oh, yes, sir. Horrible tear. It's a wonder he didn't do himself a nasty injury.
Madam, did he divest himself of his nether garments and stand before you in a state of nudity?
If you mean, did he take off his breeches in front of me? Well, certainly not, sir. I'll not have goings-on of that sort. This ain't Covent Garden, you know. We're a respectable theatre.
Yes.
He went behind the screen like they all do.
Yes, and how long, madam, was he concealed by the screen?
Well, all the time. He goes behind the screen, throws his breeches over the top, then he sits down and studies his lines for the next
Can
play.
you assure me that he studied lines for half an hour behind the screen? Can you be certain that he didn't steal through the other door to the property room and the stage? Can you be categorical about this, madam?
Why, well, no, sir, I can't say.
No, and can we be certain that Blunt is now in search of his wife? Or does he seek to prevent Mrs. Siddons giving us the information promised in her note?
Say, God, why did I read the note?
The trap! Oh, Bozzy, the trap! Mrs. Siddons mustn't use that trap!
Good God,
Now
no.
up with you and Davy.
Yes.
Go below stage as fast as you
Bozzy,
can.
this way.
Hurry, there's not a moment to lose.
This way, Botty. Mind your head.
Mrs. Siddons!
Mrs. Siddons!
Mrs. Siddons, are you there? Mr. Garrick and Mr. Boswell! Oh, thank heaven you're safe. Stand off the platform at once.
What now, Mr. Boswell? My accused us.
Madam, get off that platform! Immediately!
I don't understand.
Sarah! Quick!
The lantern, Botty. Give me the lantern. There's somebody there.
After him, Davy! He's climbing the ladder!
What's happening?
I'll explain later. Are you all right, Sarah?
Yes, I'm all right, Mr. Boswell.
Oh.
The trapdoor. It fell down. I might have been killed.
You're safe now. Never mind about your entrance. Come, we must join the others. Hold my hand. This way.
Mortal custom, yet my heart throbs to know one thing.
Did you see him, Forbes? Who's that? Why, Blunt, of course. Yes, he ran past me and down the corridor. Ring down the curtain. What? The curtain? Have it down at once. Oh, very well, sir. And then send for the watch. Tell him to come to the stage door. Quickly, man.
Yes, sir.
I will be satisfied. Deny me this, and an eternal curse fall on you. Let me know.
What the devil's going on? No second or third apparition. And now, the curtain, down in the middle of it. I'm stopping the performance, Barry. No time to explain. Go before the curtain and apologize. Say what you like, but clear the theatre. Now make haste. We have a madman at large.
The stage door is locked, Mr. Blunt, and I have the key.
Dr. Johnson, what are you doing here?
Sir, your crime is discovered.
What the devil are you talking about?
Thomas Blunt, I charge you with the murder of George Warburton.
You must be demented, sir. Come, give me the key. I'm in great haste.
There's no escape, sir. The watch have been summoned.
This is madness. Why should I kill my best friend?
Because you discovered his affair with your wife.
That's preposterous, sir. Even if that were true, I was in the wardrobe room when George was stabbed.
No, sir, you were not. But you were at pains to make it appear so. While Mrs. Binion believed you were concealed behind the screen, you stole into the property room, assumed Rafferty's cloak, and committed the murder.
Rug of nonsense. Everyone knows it was Rafferty.
Rafferty was rendered insensible by the drug you surreptitiously administered to him. You laid your plans with great cunning, sir. But you committed one error.
Indeed, sir. Pray, what was that?
Your pretext for gaining Mrs. Binion's unwitting collusion. I subjected the scenery, and especially the archway, to meticulous scrutiny. I discovered no projection or excrescence which could possibly have damaged your garments, and this fact was confirmed independently by Mr. Forbes. From this, I infer that you deliberately tore your clothing.
You're pleased to be ingenious, sir. I haven't time to argue. Perhaps this will persuade you to change your mind. Give me the key.
That weapon, sir, confirms your guilt.
You may have suspicion, sir, but no proof.
You yourself have supplied it. You are holding it at my head.
Aye, sir. And I'll blow your brains out unless you give me the key.
No, sir. I will not.
Have you no fear of death, Dr. Johnson?
Oh, yes, Mr. Blunt. I fear death. The thought of it constrains me to lie awake at night and to tremble. You have but to pull that trigger, and my terrors are resolved, one way or the other, forever. But you, sir, how will you do? Who must stand before your Creator with the brand of Cain upon your brow. And until that dreadful day, how will your conscience allow you to sustain the intolerable weight of murder? Come, sir. Give me your weapon and submit to justice.
I won't. I can't.
Stand back. Stand away or I fire.
Johnson! Are you there?
No, don't come any further, Davy. Stay where you are, all of you. He's armed with a pistol.
Blunt! Thomas Blunt! Throw down your weapon before you do any more mischief. The watch are here to arrest you. Blunt, can you hear me?
I hear you. I despise you. I despise you all. Traitors, letters, goats and monkeys.
Come, sir, surrender yourself. I beg you.
Never, never. Better be with the dead, whom we, to gain our peace, have sent to peace, than on the torture of the mind to lie in restless ecstasy.
No, Blunt, no! Oh.
Samuel, are you safe? Are you unhurt?
Oh, yes. Davy, I am unhurt. I'm shaken, God knows, but unhurt.
Oh, thank heavens for that. I feared for your life. He was desperate.
Once a man has resolved to kill himself, he has nothing to fear. Is Mrs. Siddons safe?
Aye, we got there just in time. Blunt had prized the hinges off the trapdoor. It was held in place by the bolt alone. When that was drawn, the whole thing descended. Her death would have been certain had we delayed. I brought the curtain down, and Barry is making my apologies.
I think, Davy, a modest libation of your brandy would restore my equanimity.
Of course, Johnson, of course. Go to my room and help yourself. I'll fetch Bozzy and Mrs. Siddons. I imagine they would be glad of a drink, too.
There, my dear, it's all over now. You're quite safe.
I knew something was going to happen. That horrible trapdoor. I felt sure there was someone else down there, but it was dark. I couldn't see. I was so frightened.
Ah, come along, my poor child. Dry your eyes. No one's going to harm you now. We'll look after you.
Oh, you don't know how glad I was to see you. How brave you were. And you came just in time. How did you know? You did know, didn't you? You knew it was Blunt.
Yes, Sarah, I knew. By a process of logic, inexorable logic, and careful deduction.
And Dr. Johnson. He knew too, didn't he?
Why, yes. He showed remarkable acumen in following my reasoning.
Why, here we have it. We know that several of the company wished Warburton dead. He was an unsavory character, a bully and an extortioner. Such a man would not scruple to cuckold his best friend. And don't forget that friend's political allegiance.
Well, what have Blunt's politics to do with the matter?
The fellow was a Whig, sir, and where you see a Whig, you see a rascal. When it appeared that his wife had a guilty secret, I remembered Blunt's reputation for insane jealousy. How he came to suspect her unfaithfulness, I know not.
I do, Dr. Johnson.
Huh?
Warburton and Blunt were playing cards with Jemmy Payne. George paid Tom a sovereign. It was a keepsake that Tom gave Meg when they were married. It had a small hole in it with a motto. Meg said she lost it, but Tom didn't believe her. She was frightened of him.
Oh, she had good reason. He was a dangerous man. When he realized you knew his secret, he sought the opportunity to silence you. And Chance gave it to him.
Oh, so you admit, sir, that Chance had a hand in this affair?
Chance has a hand in all our affairs, Davy. What signifies is how the human will responds to the vicissitudes of fortune.
Do you recall, sir, how only a few nights ago you postulated that art must imitate nature?
Aye, Buzzy, but in this sad business, nature has imitated art with a vengeance.
Dear Mr. Boswell, dear Dr. Johnson, it's very late. I shall say good night.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you again for saving my life. I shall be forever beholden to you.
Your most devoted servant, Sarah. May you have success and acclaim in your new engagement.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, my dear. You have shown great courage and fortitude. I wish Drury Lane had dealt more gently with you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrick. You've been very kind. Dr. Johnson, I can never repay the debt I owe you. May I be permitted to kiss you?
Oh, by all means, my dear. The debt is now paid in full, ma'am. Indeed, there is a handsome surplus, which will provide me with an annuity for the rest of my days.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, my dear. Charming, charming. Well, now, Bossy, it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning. Davy still has his accounts to do. I shall go home, if not to bed, then to finish ordering my books. Well, we bid you good night, Davy.
Good night, Johnson.
Come, Bossy, come.
Good night, Bossy.
Good night, Davy.
Well, Bossy, here we are at number 8. Is all well with you?
I believe so, sir.
I am perplexed by your unwonted taciturnity. Have I incurred your displeasure?
Why, no, sir, no.
Well, what then is the cause of your preoccupation?
I perceive, sir, that you do not appear to be wholly impervious to the attractions of Sarah Siddons.
I am an old man, sir, and must be grateful. I own I was much affected by her charming salutation.
She might have bestowed a similar favour upon me.
Why, Bossy, can it be that you're jealous?
Well, sir, I fancy I was to some degree instrumental in her deliverance.
Well, so you were, Bossy, so you were indeed. Had it not been for your timely intervention, Mrs. Siddons might well have perished.
Just so, sir, just so.
Why, sir, future playgoers will refer to Mrs. Siddons as the actress whose life was preserved by James Boswell, heir apparent to the Laird of Affleck, Bachelor of Laws and Man of Letters.
Do you really think so?
I'm certain.
Sarah Siddons and the Laird of Affleck. Sir, one thing puzzles me, a triviality.
Well, what is it?
When Blunt emerged from the wardrobe room half-clad, did he not risk conspicuity? Even in these degenerate days, a man deprived of his breeches invites attention.
Why, sir, may not a man wear 2 pairs of breeches as easily as one?
Of course, Johnson. How did you know?
Oh, mere conjecture, Bossy. Well, now I shall bid you good night. Will you call on me tomorrow?
My dear sir, we must meet tomorrow and every day. I can never adequately describe the pleasure I derive from your company.
My regard for you, sir, is greater almost than I have words to express. Even though I do not choose to be always repeating it. So write it down in the first leaf of your pocketbook, Bossy, and never doubt of it again. Never doubt of it again.
Good night, my dear sir.
Leo McKern was Dr. Johnson, Edward D'Souza, James Boswell, and Lawrence Payne, David Garrick, in Dr. Johnson Investigates by Richard Brayshaw. Others in the cast were Sarah Siddons, Linda Yanyitz, Binney, Brenda Kay, Spranger Barry, Alan McClellan, Warburton, Gavin Campbell, Blunt, Roy Spencer, Meg Blunt, Vanessa Millard, Payne, Andrew Branch, Forbes, Paul Nicholson, Hester Thrale, Daphne Neville, Henry Thrale, Philip Manicum, and the callboy Simon Allen. The programme, which came from Bristol, was directed by Brian Miller.
Another one. 22 and never sniffed a job yet.
Never sniff a pint if we don't get up there before 3.
20 years I worked in that dump. Took the money. Now I'm supposed to sit here being consoled by Benny Hill? Well, I won't do it.
What will you do?
This.
Build a publishing empire?
Become a private eye.
Holmes! I should have guessed.
But you didn't.
Cayley? I mean, he's been obsessed with that detective stuff since he was a lad. But I never thought he'd start to confuse fact with fiction. I don't know what his mother would have said.
Same as mine when I told her I wanted to turn boxing pro. That to be considering it, a soldier was already brain damaged beyond hope.
Still, he's put his redundancy money where his mouth is.
But I thought he'd applied for this National Enterprise Allowance, like, and they gave you the cash anyway.
The deal, roughly, is you go to them with a business scheme. If they like it, they'll give you 40 quid a week for a year to help you get it off the ground.
Except?
Yeah, except to qualify for the money you have to have been drawing benefit for at least 8 weeks and have £1,000 in hand.
Yeah, just like that.
Of course, they'll take a bank loan or overdraft facility.
Hey, who wouldn't? It seems a bit strange, though. Money to be a private eye.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There are things that are no-go. Blowing up nuclear installations, opening up sex shops, but producing homemade chocolates, working a vegetable garden, wanting to be a private eye. John reckons they were pretty helpful by and large. Just went to the job centre to find out if he qualified and got himself invited to an awareness day.
Oh, yeah, that sounds different.
Videos, financial advice, lunch. Then the other half of the videos, more advice, application forms. And today, the final interview where he takes along proof of the availability of his £1,000.
Lots of difference after all. Just another feast in the new church of Thatcher.
How about you? Anything going?
Can't get a girl, never mind a job. They don't really want to know you when you're out. At least not the sort I like. Hey, you know how Chris is back with me and me mum? She finally left that smooth-talking bastard she was married to.
Wonder what John's reaction will be to
that. Quiet, isn't it?
Not much to shout about in the job centre. Not this side of the counter, anyway.
Quite. Looking for employment yourself? Charlie Rose, by the way.
Oh, John O'Rourke. I'm on this Enterprise allowance wagon. Today's yes or no time.
I'm after some gen on that sort of thing myself.
Oh,
I'm a merchant seaman, but, well, I've had enough one way or another.
Well, you'll have to be an out-of-work merchant seaman to do any good here.
Just on leave, actually. Exploring possibilities.
No go. Out 8 weeks and drawing benefit. You could try 'em, though. There's always a couple beat the net, no matter how small the mesh. What is it you've got in mind?
Oh, dogs. English setters.
Oh, yeah.
Gentlest things in the world. Take a bone from their mouths. All the virtues of man and none of the vices. How's it go? Oh, something like that.
You want to breed 'em? That sort of thing?
Like to set up a kennels.
Oh, I don't think he'll do it from here. Not without a dole card. That's the Enterprise allowance idea, you see. Help those who are on the floor but have got access to a bit of money.
And those without access to a bit of money?
Well, they have to help themselves. It's known as the pauper's penalty.
Mr. O'Rourke? Mr. O'Rourke? It's the container ships, you see. Work and more work. And that bloody Western Ocean. I was used to other things. India, East Africa, the warmth, colour.
Mr. O'Rourke. Oh, look, I've got to go. Got to get this interview over with.
Of course. Well, best of luck. Oh, I forgot to ask what you're trying for.
Oh, private detective. Like yourself, I'm also after a bit of life. My helping of excitement, warmth and colour. So then they gave it you? With due warnings, provisos and just a hint of blackmail. Hey, nothing for nothing in this world, John. Hey, having said that, here's a wine gun for nothing. Oh, ta. Oh, it's getting a bit nippy these mornings. How far now? I'm just down here. Moorfields. Prestige address. Used to be. Liverpool will come back, don't worry about that. Hey, what did your dad say about leaving home? Getting a flat in town? Well, he went quiet for a bit. Then asked where it was. Who'd had it before me. Told him I thought a painter. I'd left all sorts of weird pictures lying around. Bit of a nutter, maybe. What did your dad say to that?
That some places attracted him. Then told me to take you in with me. Said he felt I was going to need an ex-scrapper. Anyway, here we are, so you can see for yourself.
Up there? Those stairs?
That's penthouse suite. Follow me. So I asked them to start paying in the 40 a week in a fortnight's time. 1st of October. Stop. This is it.
John, we're higher than the post office tower. How are you going to attract anyone up here?
The Enterprise people went into that. Local paper, local radio, Yellow Pages. It all comes in the package. Why won't this lock open? Did the other day.
Probably seas we're cold at this altitude. Anyway, shouldn't you be able to crack one of those now without leaving any trace?
Curly, be a good lad. Step down to Dale Street and get me a junior hacksaw, will you? Right. That's it. Now then. Well, what do you think?
Never seen anything like this, John.
I know. Black as a bucky's fingernails.
I was thinking more of a...
Oh, them. Well, you must have seen those painter fellas on the telly and that, surely. At it with everyone. Cutting their ears off.
If that one leaning on the far wall's anything to go by, it's not their ears need cutting off. Say the priest came round.
Say me dad did.
And that one. Size 40 boob in red.
Yeah.
Green eye in the middle of it. Halo over the top. It's no name or nothing.
Have a look on the back.
Oh, so there is. Celestial Vision by Adrian Mintz. That's it then. Celestial Vision by Adrian Mintz. What do you think?
Let's have the mop.
Then ended by hanging around the walls. You should see them.
I don't have to. Where's he keeping?
He's sectioned a bit off. Knocked up a partition with a velvet curtain instead of a door.
Sounds a bit Oscar Wilde to me.
Nah, you wouldn't know what to think.
You mightn't. Any custom?
Not a sausage. Just 3 weeks scrubbing and hammering.
What's he doing with himself all day?
He walks around town. Has he been in touch with you?
Rang me to let me know the phone was in. A couple of times since.
And how about you?
At least I've got this place. And the betting shop.
Well, John's got an empty office. So neither of you are getting anywhere. He's not going to ask for help.
We'll give him some. Anyway.
Oh, hello, Chris. What are you doing here?
Oh. Hello, John. Your dad gave me a key.
Oh, right.
Oh, Curly's been coming home with more dust on him than a Jubilee teapot. Bit early for you to be out and about, isn't it?
I just nipped out for a walk in a paper, you know, same as every morning. Nothing more sinister than that.
Anyway, as you weren't here, I just let myself in. You need to get some decent carpets. Keep the dust down.
I've been trying to sort the bedroom first. Sink, geyser, a few bits of furniture, a mattress.
Your dad thought your old firm might give you one.
How is he?
Seems to spend a lot of time in the pub. We sit and watch the domino players together.
What happened, Chris? And what went wrong?
Oh, with me and my ex. Oh, the usual. Started working overtime, went on to late, then graduated to permanent nights. I had no kids to consider, just the occasional black eye, so I packed me Valium and left. What really happened, of course, was virtue led me astray. Being a good Catholic girl, you see, I made him wait, so he married me for the first night. Then went back to being a bachelor. I had nothing to go back to. I'd already given it all to him.
Well, at least, as you said, there were no kids.
Not for want of trying. I actually thought they might give him a sense of responsibility. The politics of despair. By that time, he'd got bored, so I had to go for all the tricks.
Chris,
A bit embarrassed, are you, John? You should be where I've been.
But still no go. The kids, that is.
Oh, I couldn't. He couldn't. Who knows?
What about the tests?
Oh, the tests. Excuse me, Bill, for interrupting while you're at the difficult task of poring over the racing page. He was named Bill, by the way, after what came through the letterbox each morning. Excuse me, dear. Would you like to take your feet off the table? Offer me the remains of your takeaway. Let me open you another can of lager. Then perhaps accompany me down to the clinic to take some tests. Oh, John, what if it were him? I mean, a real man being presented with a certificate saying he had no balls. It would have been designer stubble and Sunday football all the way. And he was sweaty enough as it was.
I didn't realise. You're married, you just moved out, went away.
I went for a tour, John. A tour of human nature. You really think I'm sorry there were no kids? After what I saw en route?
John, isn't it? John O'Rourke?
Yes, hello there. Oh, bloke from the job centre.
Right.
Hang on, Jimmy, no, Billy, something about horses, wasn't it? No, sheep.
You're a card, Mr. Spade.
Charlie Rose.
Of course. Merchant seaman. Wanted to open a kennels, right? Setters, dogs you can take a bone out of their mouths. All the virtues of a man, etc. Right? You have any joy? I mean, do they take you?
I'm afraid it turned out just as you said. Benefit claimants only. I'm on leave again and saw your advert in the paper. Thought I'd look you up. Had a bit of trouble finding this place, though, I must admit.
You're not alone there, Charlie.
Oh, this is Chris, part of the team. The blonde, good-looking part.
Chris, pleased to meet you. Look, John, thing is, I've found a little place over on the Wirral. Near where I live, that's West Hartwood. Small market town. This house is up for sale and has got a bit of land attached. Good possible kennel space.
But there's a problem, is there? I mean, something that needs a professional touch.
I just can't seem to get in to see it.
I thought you said it was for sale.
Yeah, bit complicated. The owner went abroad for a time and let it. Then the owner decided he wasn't coming back and wired the estate agents to sell the place.
Except they can't get the bloke out who's rented it.
Trouble is, they can't really seem to catch him in. Seems to me to be one of those shadowy coves you hear about, sort of Scarlet Pimpernel. Would you care to tackle it, John?
Well,
I thought after seeing your advert in the paper, it might be the sort of thing that... Well, you could maybe do it while I'm away if you're too busy now.
Are we, John? I can't remember.
I sail for the States at midnight tomorrow, from the Seaforth container terminal, so it's a bit awkward for me.
Well, it's really nice of you to think of me, Charlie, but, well, you see, here we're more into the kind of the...
Lord Lucan. Brinksmat. Shergar. Oh, hello, is that the phone, John? With that call you're expecting from Interpol about the Van Goghs?
That's Chris's little joke, Charlie. She once lived next door. Sort of gives her a privileged position. That and never having forgiven me for once seeing her in her Liberty bodies, having Vic rubbed on her chest.
Yes, of course. It's a strange old world. Just thought I'd drop in. Let me leave you the address of this place, though, just in case you do get a moment. Here you are. And, as I say, West Hartwood.
Listen, if I'm over there, Charlie, I'll see what I can do. That's a promise.
Best of luck, then.
Yeah.
Bye, Chris.
Ta-ra.
It's a nice bloke. Wants to breed setters.
He wants some help with his house, too.
Oh, come on, Chris. That's hardly my sort of...
What is? My sordid memoirs. He was looking for a service you're supposed to provide. That you're obliged to provide. You got the enterprise money to be John O'Rourke, private eye, not Hercule Poirot, confidant of kings.
Hello. Put my foot in it, have I? Like me to come back later? That is, if I can manage them bloody stairs again without a guide.
No need. I'm just off. Next time, Mr. O'Rourke, I'll bring some carbolic soap and we'll have a real clean out.
Hey, let me help you on with your coat.
You're a real gentleman, that's what you are. He's a real gentleman. Of the old school. You know the type.
And who was that?
When you sit down, Mrs.
Mrs.
Miss...
Right. Anyway, whoever she is, I can see she's got her own troubles. Oh, but I know what's caused them. Bloody men. Here. Get many pervs hanging round this place.
Do you want me to find you one?
Bottom of your stairs. Queer-looking cove. Glary eyes, reading a magazine with a bloody big sort of wolfhound on the front. Bestiality, perhaps? Oh, they're all at it. You too, I suppose.
How can I help you, Mrs. Raitt?
This photo.
10 years ago from the close. Dark curly hair. 5'5", 6. Natty dresser. Likes women.
Here. How do you know his height?
Who's that card he's against? It's a Porsche, isn't it? They're pretty low slung. He won't be as tall as he seems.
Him and his bloody Porsches. Wonder he doesn't change his name to Porsche. Wouldn't be the first time.
And that handbag on the edge of the print. Now that shows he likes women.
Shows he likes something carries handbags. As it happens, you're right. Because that's me. Just out of the picture, as usual. I want you to find that bastard.
Would that be, Mr. Rate?
As was. Ronnie Rate. I don't know who or what he is now, except he's living across the Mersey, on the Wirral Peninsula somewhere.
But if you know roughly where he is...
The Wirral's a big place, sonny. Well, big place full of little places. But it's also full of smart money. So, that's where Ronnie'll be. He left London for what he called business in Liverpool, but the Wirral's where he'll be staying. Here, in this envelope, a retainer and exes.
And what?
Expenses. Oh. And 500 cash when you find him.
Right. Well, now, if I could just take some details.
Details?
Where you live, that sort of thing.
Don't make me laugh. Here's a telephone number. A confidential telephone number. Right. I'll be off. Collect modern, do you? Modern art.
Oh, on the wall. Yes.
Right. Best investment of all if you know what you're doing. Ronnie's into it, of course. Specialises in nudes, you won't be surprised to hear. How do you pick 'em, though? The ones that are going to move.
Oh,
That one there, for instance. Big green tip with a red eye in the middle and a rubber band over it. Got something there.
Yes, people think so. I believe the artist saw it as an ultimate set of symbols to depict the idea of the great Earth Mother.
Oh, blimey. No wonder they're all hanging round your stairs. Right. Get busy.
Oh, Mrs. Wright, before you go, why me?
Sentiment, really. Remember that old movie, O'Rourke of the Mounties? I saw it as a girl 3 times. Broke my heart. So, I picked your name from the local paper. You got lucky, Mr. O'Rourke. Let's see if you can get successful, eh?
You don't realise how heavy books are till you come to move them, do you?
Spiders will have to get themselves on the housing list now your library's going.
Oh!
Oops, there's one falling out. Let's see. The Case of the Vanishing Egyptian Cigarettes by Mustafa Fagg.
Oh, Dad! Let me open the front door. We'll lift him in the car. Oh. Once we get him in the boot, I'll run you to the top of the street for a pint. Look, I needed a car. Curly got it from his mate. It's a bargain. 150 quid. It's 3 months' tax and a year's MOT.
How about an anthrax clearance from the Port Health?
Right. That's them safe.
Safer than we're liable to be.
Come on, Dad. Learn to live dangerously. Climb in. I'll put her through her paces for you. It was okay this morning. Yeah, I must have just flooded.
As Noah said. Any luck with Mr. Mystery yet?
I've tried every sizable place on the Wirral. Must be using a false name.
You don't say. Let's have a look at that photo again while we wait for lift-off.
Right. Here. 70s snap. Long hair. Mexicano mustachios.
Lapels like Coco the Clown's. Trouser bottoms like barnacle bills. What's that he's draped over?
His Porsche.
Likes him, does he?
Children he never had.
Why she wants him, you think? This Mrs. Rate?
Maintenance, I suppose.
And why you? Why not a big agency? Why all the money?
I told you, Dad. O'Rourke of the Mounties. Sentiment.
The Mrs. Rates of this world are about as sentimental as a bosun's fist.
You've got something, haven't you? All right, Dad. Let's have it.
You've picked a queer business.
I won't have one if I can't come up with Monty Macho there.
I don't suppose there can be many with a name like that, even on the Wirral.
A name like what? Well, come on.
Mr. Porsche, noted car lover.
Come on, Louise. Wax!
From time to time.
Well, that's Little Beesden out. What's next, Curly?
West Hartwood.
Right, where are we? Yeah, West Hartwood. Oh, well, 7th time lucky, I suppose. Hang on! Told you it'd all happen at once, Curl.
Told me what had happened.
Come in! Afternoon, sir. Not too bad for early November, is it? John O'Rourke, private investigator.
Detective Inspector Crust, public nuisance. Take you long, did they? The paintings?
Oh, left behind when we took the lease. Didn't think anyone would object if I stuck them up.
Not technically theft, I suppose. That one there. Let's have it down. Celestial Vision, Adrian Mintz, 1983. Acrylics and oil in cheap snap-in frame. Not that I know anything about it.
Just that the info you want is on the back.
You're right, son. Blown me cover. That a kettle, Mr. O'Rourke?
Curly, would you...
No, I'm not your ordinary copper. 6 packets of gum a day, 80 smokes, double beef curry and chips washed down by a bottle of scotch. Why, I've even got Open University credits.
Sugar, and are you sweet enough?
But they're not what I've really wanted. What I've really wanted is people to like me as a person. Well, most coppers do. Of course, no one ever does. And that, in the end, is what breeds iron in the soul and reduces us to page 3 in the Sun and 4 aways on the fixed odds.
John, was this milk sour when you bought it?
Years ago, we'd troll the streets of Liverpool 2 in the morning when the clubs let out. Why am I being arrested, they'd shout, as if 2 in the morning wasn't enough in itself. Once we got him to the Bridewell, the other lads would say, "Bend your truncheon round the bastard's head, Sarge. That'll quieten him. Or kick him in the ghoulies, Sarge. Give him something to shout about." Thanks, son. Kelly, is it? But I never did. So none of the other bobbies liked me either. In the end, though, they came round. You know why? Because I got promoted. And everybody likes the boss. At least, if they've got any sense, they do. They listen to his questions carefully and answer them honestly. And my question to you, Mr. O'Rourke, is why you aren't with us and wearing size 11s instead of in this dump causing unease.
Because I want to be a boss too, like yourself.
No, Mr. O'Rourke, not like me. Not like me at all. For a start, I assume it's me and my kind paying your wages here, that you've hit on this as your final hope.
I've hit on this as my only hope.
And young Sherlock?
He's coming in with me on a youth scheme.
Ah, Dombey and Son. You know, when I came here, I came to stamp on you. But I'm so impressed by you bulls, I'm going to offer you a deal. You give me anything that's ours by right, serious crimes, as it were, and I'll give you all the lost kittens and milkmen caught with their trousers down. OK?
And what about clients' confidentiality?
What about... clients' confidentiality? What about it? Got something in the confidential line, have we?
Just a hypothetical question.
There ain't no such animal, Mr. O'Rourke. There ain't no hypothetical questions, there ain't no hypothetical cases. There's open cases, shut cases, and there's cherchez la femme cases. Follow me? Nice cup of tea, that. Nellie?
He knows about Mrs. Reet.
Does he?
Of course he does. That's a bigger nap than Pinzer.
I mean, can I trust him?
You know what happened when St. Patrick drove the snakes out of Ireland, don't you? They all swam to Liverpool and joined the police force.
So what would you do?
Time now, lads!
Dad, what are you saying?
If I'd signed on the ship, I'd do the work. That's what I'm saying. Think about it, John.
Which town, please?
West Hartwood, on the Wirral.
And the name, please?
Mr. Porsche. He'll be a new subscriber. It's spelt the same as the car.
Hold a moment, please. I'm sorry, caller. That number is...
No, I said he'd be a new subscriber.
Sorry, caller. But that number is ex-directory.
Great.
Yeah?
Hello, is Mrs. Raitt there, please?
Who is it?
Mrs. Raitt, please.
You didn't hear me, China. I asked who it was.
John O'Rourke.
That's better. Liz, there's a geezer called O'Rourke wants a word. Voice on him like he's trying to sell timeshare at the North Pole.
Oh, it's that tech I was telling you about.
How are things among the golf widows and wife swappers, Sunshine? Using plenty of Polaroid?
Yeah, give me that bogger.
Oh, come
Keep your hands off me.
Sounds as if he wants a hedgehog down his jockstrap to me, Liz.
Just get 2 drinks, eh? That's bogger. All wet eyes, instinct and aggro. Right, what have you got?
Mr. Raitt, now Porsche, is living in West Hartwood, the Wirral.
Good boy. What's the bastard's address?
Well, that's the next thing. Just bringing you up to date at the moment, letting you catch the drift, like.
I don't want bringing up to date, Mr. O'Rourke. You weren't hired as a calendar. Hard info or I'll be round for my money back. Except it'll be Bogger collects it. Understand me?
Well, Curly, the main feature's finally on the way.
X-certificate stuff, do you think?
Oh, PG at most, I'd say.
PG? Does that mean pretty gory?
Shazam! A car park in the heartland of West Hartwood.
What now?
Nearest upmarket bar.
Well, what's to say he uses them?
It's part of the image. He'd get withdrawal symptoms if he wasn't in a plush lounge at lunchtime with a large one in front of him. You come in?
Nah, looks a bit pricey. I'll be out of place in an anorak and jeans. I'll hang on here. Hey, it's not a maintenance job, all this, is it?
Mrs. Raitt never said it was.
What's it really about?
I told you. Plush lounges, large ones and Porsches. And a chance for us to start at the top.
Have one for me.
Pint of bitter, please.
Oh, we're the twins, ting-a-ling-a-ling, we're the twins, ting-a-ling-a-ling, we're the brothers St. John, and we know when we're on. Yes, sir.
Pint of bitter, please.
Oh, no pints here, love. Over the road in the British Legion, behind the stables. Just follow your nose.
Scotch, then.
Double scotch for the gent. Anything with it?
Wouldn't mind a bit of ice.
I wouldn't mind a bit myself. And change from a fiver.
Keep it.
Yes. Now, what you really after, love?
This photo.
Oh, that suit!
Yeah, taken about 10 years ago.
I'm paying for it ever since.
The hair and mustachios will have gone by now, too.
Unless he's appearing as the bearded lady somewhere.
Well?
You got a pal looking for you, love. Someone's just popped in, then out. You know what I mean?
Small, slim, blonde hair.
Tempter. No, large, very large. Face like a full moon, hair like a Brillo pad. No ring through the nose, but I thought there was a bit of snout there all the same. One of them are you, love?
No. How about the photo?
Well, you know what we bar persons need, don't you? A good union and a decent wage.
Oh. Here.
Talk about relief without satisfaction.
Yeah, another.
I should hope so. Is in the other one.
Other one?
Other hotel, love. Places like this always have 2. One for the landed and layabouts, one for the lawyers and arse slickers.
And what's he?
He's in the Queen's Arms at the moment, Dux, and she's welcome to him.
What happened?
Oh, it's over there. No sign of crust. But Raitt was propped up in the lounge as large as life. Clocked me right away. Some sort of sixth sense.
Known as self-preservation.
And slips out as I'm buying a drink.
So you lost him?
Just what we didn't do. I got tired of hanging around in the car and went for a stroll. Caught Rachel, Porsche or whatever, coming out the pub and followed him down a side street to one of those snazzy little antique shops. Yeah. Import and export. Sort of place that's never open unless it's shut.
So he's in that lot as well?
Yeah, though not under his own name.
Not another.
Mr. A. Ferrari.
Oh. Put the kettle on, will you, John? I'll have a cup of antifreeze and a power steering pie.
Right.
Something wrong?
It's dirty. Greasy. I've never seen it like that before.
Thought you'd be too busy to notice.
Dad, look, I really think...
So what now?
Obvious. Our 2 intrepid heroes mount guard outside Rate's place until he finally shows up.
Whenever that is.
It won't be too long between visits. Rate's probably someone got his money the hard way. He's not going to leave any of it lying around without keeping a close eye on it. We'll go back there tomorrow. He'll show up, if only to check the doors.
You going to let Mrs. Rate know?
I think so.
I bloody well know so. Having the man from the Prue Coal is bad enough. The man from the zoo, Mrs. Rate's bogger, would be another matter. So let's have a cuppa, then you two can get an early start.
After all, that's the only way to get the worm.
Oh.
There he goes. He's just leaving the shop. Heading for the Porsche. Hey, I hate to admit it, but you were right about him checking the joint every day. Is Mrs. Rate any happier this time when you rang?
Said she knew about his love of antiques from pictures she'd seen of his old girlfriends. And where's the address?
Coming up very shortly. He's moving off. Right, John, get going.
Can't get into first. Oh, one other thing she said I ought to know. Rate's a psychopath. What? It's no good, Kel. I can't move it.
Here, get out and let me try. Come on, we'll lose him.
What if he spots us?
What if he does? No psychopath's happy unless he thinks he's being followed. Come on, John, shift yourself. We've got to get going.
Place like this, you'd wonder where all the traffic comes from.
The thing is, it's there and it stops him spotting us. Oh, shit, he's pulling in. Do the same. Look, there's a space. Stick your head out the passenger window. Right.
Don't believe it. He's talking to a copper and pointing back here.
Oh, you're joking.
What's worse, the copper happens to be Inspector Crust. Here he comes.
Wind the window back up.
I'm trying to.
Oh.
Afternoon, sir. It's your vehicle.
Bit off your beat, aren't you, Mr. Crust? In uniform, too.
Simple disguise to fool the villains. I don't know, Mr. O'Rourke. Modern art collection, chauffeur-driven vintage car. Guided tours of your office shortly. The gent in the red sports job, Porsche, is it? He thinks you've lost your way, and I agree. Up to now, Mr. O'Rourke, I thought there were only 2 kinds of Liverpool drug dealers. Those with large houses in Surrey and those with small cells in Walton. But maybe there's a 3rd kind. You and I have to have a talk shortly, Mr. O'Rourke, about a lot of money that's gone missing. But for now, get Chitty Chitty Bang Bang started up and get off back through the tunnel before I take that rusty back bumper and stick it up your jacksie. And get that rear off side intake and next time to the man.
Hello?
John O'Rourke. Mrs. Rate, I need to speak to you.
You haven't got it, have you? The address.
Why are you looking for your husband? I mean, what about all this money? There's a policeman named Crust turns up everywhere. Where does he come in, eh?
Where does the man in the moon come in? You were hired to make inquiries on my behalf, not your own.
I'm not happy about all this, Mrs. Rate.
You'll be unhappier still if Bogger comes calling. Let me tell you something, Mr. O'Rourke. You're an amateur in everything. Between the worst professional and the best amateur is a bridge that can't be crossed, and you're on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, well, I'm the first to admit that as far as pros go, you've probably got them all licked. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
No, you shouldn't. You can eat those words shortly, Mr. O'Rourke, and each one will be like a mouthful of sawdust.
Mrs. Rate, if you...
Bogger!
Yeah, Liz?
I want that scouse Mick.
Oh, sure, dough, sure.
How many pieces?
As many as you like, and the smaller the better.
Well, how will we set him up, Liz?
From tomorrow, we tail him every time he goes across to the Wirral. That way, he'll set himself up. And Ronnie.
He's got the address, then?
He thinks he's close enough to try to start striking deals. Bogger, that bastard just insulted me.
Oh, he don't know no better, Liz. No education. No sense of protocol. That's his trouble. You leave him to me. Him and Ronnie, right?
Yeah. I know. Well, that is just get the money from Ronnie. Rough him up a bit, but...
Sure. I understand. Nothing a doctor can't fix.
That Scouse, though.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Come here.
Oh, not now, Bogger. Not here. Oh, Bogger, let go, will you?
Oh, talking about that stuff. The aggro business. Well, you know how it gets me going.
Then at least the bedroom.
No, doll, here. I'd give you what you want all the time, Liz. Now and again, you've got to come across with the same for me.
So, you're going to come home every weekend now?
There's no reason why both of us should have nothing to do for 2 days of the week. Besides, I miss you making the eggs and bacon Saturday mornings. You don't mind, do you?
Well, I'm putting together quite a social life these days. Best time I've had in years.
Oh.
Fridays, tonight that is, we started going to St. Joe's Parish Club. Me, Chris and Curly, few pints. Bit of a dance to Father Molyneux's latest discoveries in the group line.
Bit dead, as I remember, on a Friday.
Not as dead as we'll eventually be. Why not join us? Go and stick on a clean shirt.
I don't know. What's on telly tonight?
Chris isn't for a start. You might have got over your blue period, but she hasn't. She needs someone to talk to whether she knows it or not. And it might as well be you. Come on. It's all time off in purgatory.
Aren't you going to ask me about the case?
Why? What's happened?
I've had a phone call. From a seafaring gentleman.
One leg and a line in maps with little crosses. Go on, son. Go and change. You're going to have to join the human race again sometime.
Cheers, Curly.
Cheers, Curly.
Cheers,
As I was saying, his name's Charlie. Charlie Rose. Wanted to breed dogs, and he's been looking at a place on the Wirral. You remember Chris?
I do now. West Hartwood.
That's right. He even gave the address. Except he couldn't get in to see it, because the lessee was never available. The lessee's name, of course, being Mr...
Reid!
Ferrari.
Oh, Ferrari!
What? Evening all. Anyone for a pint?
Family group tonight.
A particularly literate villain once told me how he thought the lads in the force were like one big happy family. The Borgias.
Sit down, Mr. Crust. This is me dad and Curly's sister, Chris.
Nice to meet you, Mr. O.
Hello.
And you, Mrs. Miss.
Somewhere in the middle at the moment.
Ah. Disraeli, I think it was, said every woman should marry. And no man. That's politicians for you. Your fella holds similar views, did he, Chris?
My husband disliked politics, Inspector, though he didn't feel the same about parties. Great reader, are you?
Munis of a course I'm doing to improve myself. Give the barman a shout, will you, son?
It's counter service. They like to see you's in.
Next to you, I think, Mr. O'Rourke. Come along, gents.
Yeah, well, don't fall off the end of the bench.
Better than appearing in front of it, son, believe me.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, while you're all enjoying yourselves and each other's company, and before we hear from the Negs, a word about this year's parish outing to Lourdes.
You believe in miracles, Mr. O'Rourke?
And tombolas held on this spot every Saturday night to help the old and ill to places. Saturday being tomorrow for those who aren't sure.
Perhaps just miracle drugs, eh?
Last drug I touched was some stuff from the chemist for my dad's rheumatics.
Who attended the shrine last year was after telling me a good tale. Lady in front of there, coming through customs, had a 2-litre bottle of Lourdes water. Customs man opens it, takes a sniff. Gin, says he. Another miracle, cried she.
What will you say to 500,000, Mr. O'Rourke? Made on the backs of the young, weak and downtrodden.
So, without further ado, Father Molyneux's answer to the Beatles. Ladies and gentlemen, the Negs!
Are we talking about the seasonal adjustment to the unemployment figures?
Don't annoy me, Mr. O'Rourke. I'm in the wrong job for that.
One of our own to start with, folks. Just Another Night, written by our drummer, the one and only Bobby Mack. right, Bobby. So after that 21st party last week, I'm sure everyone already knows who you are. Good taking it. Right, lads, let's go with it. From the top, just another night.
Interesting looking group of lads. Winsomely sentimental. How would you think, Mr. Rowe? Winsomely sentimental?
Sounds like the name of 2 Harrison boats.
The days run together, there's no change in the weather, there's no hope for the future, and although this did suit your gonna step, now a new dance take you round to the main chance, bring you on to those long stairs that lead up to the yes sirs.
I'm going to cut you in, Mr. O'Rourke. We're going to share our thoughts.
Feeling low, smoke a joint of grass, sniff a line of snow, score a gram of age, maybe do some speed, drop some LSD. Cut yourself and bleed.
Hope they're old enough to use the bar. Speaking of which, Kelly, here's a used tenner. Take your time.
People see me taking money off you, they might begin to wonder. Let's face it, you're not going to be mistaken for an altar boy, not in here.
Explain, will you, Mr. O'Rourke? Before I have to, in a way he'll remember.
You and whose army?
Curly. Curl, this is important, right? It's the case. Just this once?
Yeah, well. But it'll only be the once.
How lucky we are, eh? Use of stuff that don't endure. And you, Mr. O, taking a turn round the floor with Chris now, are you?
Bit advanced for me.
Trick is not to have your feet kicked from under you. Not in public, anyway. Oh, dear, oh, dear. I hope I'm not going to have to get official with you lot tonight.
Especially when you're dealing with size 11s. Come on, Dad.
Aye.
He's right. Size 11s are size 11s, in or out of uniform.
Excuse me.
Come on.
The Chopin waltzes might be waltzes, but they're not waltzes any human being could ever dance to. She'd manage it, though, eh? Just look at her. Finger off a music box.
Like seeing her again for the first time.
Some of them seem to hunt out the good ones like her, the special ones, just so they can spoil what's in them. OK, pin your lugs back, and I'll help make her proud of you. Many moons ago, there was a flourishing drugs racket round the south coast. Much tripping among the trippers, and we couldn't nail it. We couldn't nail it because it wasn't static. The big cheese, Der Grosse Kaiser, Mr. Ronnie Raitt, had come up with a new idea, and like many new ideas, it paid off well, initially. He got himself a mobile home, a couple of mobile homes.
What, Mr. Caravan?
He gutted them and rigged him out as laboratories. Hired a few bent chemists and laughed all the way to the bank. £500,000 we reckon at the end of the day.
Which is what it's all about.
Which is what part of it's about. Because at the end of that same day, of course, we caught on and moved in. And now we come to his better half.
His Porsche?
His wife, Mrs. Raitt, did the time for him. Thinking she was coming out to half the cash and a faithful husband. Well, half the cash, anyway.
So why didn't he do the time?
Oh, usual reasons. Everything and everybody in her name. He's a tongue as smooth as a mole's coat. Plus the viciousness of a tiger with piles. You'll find out.
Will I?
You see, we want the money. She wants the money. He wants to keep the money. And all playing for real.
And me?
Piggy in the middle.
And you?
Oh, I represent the professionals.
What are they doing?
Waiting and watching. Same as all professionals do. You'll learn. You'd be surprised how much you could learn just sitting and listening. Raitt thinks we're about, you see. He'll freeze on the money. he imagines it's just yourself and Mrs. Wright.
Amateur evening again.
Mrs. Wright's got someone with her.
Bugger Bone, known as the clumsy carpenter. He's broken so many legs. London, East End, and bred not to let go once his teeth are in. He'll hurt you. He'll hurt you, son. Ronnie'll kill you. But Bugger will hurt you so much, you'll wish you were dead.
If I have a go, find the cash, like. What's in it for me?
Whatever's in your head. Only you know that. Plus my goodwill, which you'll need. You're thinking of staying on in this game in this town, eh? Now it's clue time. Wright has 2 containers of antiques at the Seaforth terminal, waiting to go to America. They're waiting because the papers on them keep getting lost. We've had a good look, but there ain't nothing we can see but woodworms, super glue and cheek. But that's where we think it's going to happen. Right, here's Wright's address. Ostentatious sort of a bungalow set in half an acre of privacy. I'm off to town for the Chinese. Give my regards to the folks. And tell the group, don't call me. I'll be putting them under surveillance as a matter of course.
Now this is what I call a real end to an evening at St. Joe's.
You seem pretty much at home here, ordering and that.
Oh, my ex was a great one for chats over the chapatis, before it became punches over the porridge.
Your martini, madam.
Thanks.
The food will be following immediately.
I say, here it's all decor by MGM and prices courtesy of the Maharaja.
Yeah. I'm sorry to go on about it. Like the divorce. There I go again.
You know, what we both need is a holiday. Crust was mentioning mobile homes, and it set me thinking. You know, I've never had a weekend in a caravan.
Well, I have.
Oh.
John, I couldn't have another man like that yet. Not if he came on a gold platter with an apple in his mouth. You see this crew round the walls, looking like extras from the King of the Khyber Rifles?
Very colourful.
Do you ever wonder what they do to their wives when they get home?
Chris.
Well, I do. All the time.
Quarter of an hour, then come and get me. OK, Curly?
I should be in there with you. You heard Cross. This fella's dangerous.
He wouldn't wear 2 of us. See ya.
Yes?
Mr. Wright, my name's John O'Rourke. I got your address from the Electoral Register. There's a painting in your shop window I'd like for my wife's birthday. Falls pretty soon, which is why I've gone to these sorts of lengths, checking your name and that.
Stand back slightly, would you? That's better. World War II Luger. Picked it up in a jackboot sale. Come in, Mr. O'Rourke. Come in and tell me all about it.
You're an absolute bloody marvel, Bogger. You really are. A Rourke in a biscuit barrel on wheels and you lose it.
Do me a favour, Liz.
Well, that nutcase staggering all over the road with those 3 bloody dogs leaping up at his throat. Jumping around like Vickers in a Soho sex shop.
I miss the smoke too. Reckon we'll ever see it again.
Stop!
What's up, Liz?
That driveway we just passed. O'Rourke's car sitting at the bottom of it.
Well, what do you know?
Now, remember what I told you. Not too much on Ronnie, just where he's planted the dosh.
And O'Rourke?
Well, I'll have to let him get clear for now. Sets my teeth on edge, but there you are. Now, don't worry, Bog. You get your chance to ring his bell for him. So, just pull over into those bushes when you're ready, and we'll wait for Liverpool Larry and his mate to leave. Anything else?
Oh, got your flask there, love. I hate doing the business when I'm dry.
Here, Mr. O'Rourke. A drink for an honest burgher of the great city of Liverpool. That's very interesting, that little tale you've just told me. Happened to be passing the shop, picture in the window, wife's birthday, etc. Decided to look me up. But unfortunately for you, there's just one thing. I don't vote, Mr. O'Rourke. I'm not on any electoral list. And the name on my shop is not Rate. I see by your face you've realized your mistake. Bang, bang, you're dead. Or are you? Have you given my wife this address?
No, I haven't.
Then you're not dead. Not for the moment. My wife hates men. Most women hate men. You find this, being married yourself?
Well,
Jack London said that a man who can keep away from drink and women can live very cheaply. Not that he ever managed it. Poor Jack.
Was he a mate of yours?
In some ways, a great mate. Though the level we commune on is not necessarily one you would understand. I mean no insult, you appreciate. Just a statement of fact.
Sounds a bit like Inspector Crust, actually. When I set up, he came to check me over. It's a bit of a query that stuck in my mind.
Set up what, Mr. O'Rourke? Let me tell you my side. Some years ago, in the psychedelic 70s, my wife and I opened a recherche little bijou establishment in London. Are you following this?
Every word.
As often happened in those days, one place led to another, and suddenly we were rich. Have you ever been rich, Mr. O'Rourke? Don't let anyone tell you it makes you unhappy. I wanted to cash in, seeing the writing on the prescriptions. My wife wanted to ride it to the end. So she did, ending up in a not very glamorous Sackcloth and Ashes number in Holloway. Now she wants half of what I got out with. She's not getting it.
I struck a deal with her to find you. I've just set up as a private eye.
Wait here. Help yourself to another. Mr. O'Rourke, would I insult you if I offered you money?
Not necessarily.
For silence?
I sort of tried to explain about that. You see, I gave her my word. You know, it's a professional thing.
You've also just begun. And when people are just beginning, Mr. O'Rourke, they usually have to do things that later on they shake their heads at in others. Here, at least hold the envelope while you consider. Now, you spoke of a painting in my shop window.
A ship in a stormy sea.
Oh, the work isn't under glass, completely open to abuse. In fact, possibly the only genuine thing at this stage is the signature. However, meet me halfway and it's yours. Not that I'm an expert in the arts. Usually I simply draw conclusions.
Which are?
That you'll be charitably silent on my behalf. Show acquiescence and goodwill until I go.
Go?
South first, for a beakerful of the warm sun. Then New York, where once more I'll deal in the artifacts of the past, the memento mori of those artistic tongues that now are silent, but which still speak and say, thus it was, thus we suffered.
Yeah, right, well, Curly's waiting, so...
I'll see you out. This way. What sort of car do you drive? Oh, dear Mr. O'Rourke. Appearances can be decisive. Force yourself up market. You'll soon be along there, naturally. Buy from good rummage sales rather than provincial outfitters. Never take anyone's post-dated checks but mine. Remember, I've got your interests at heart. Nice evening.
Okay, there they go.
Bloody rain, as well as everything else. Still, there's been nothing straightforward about Ronnie since the day I met him. Right. How do we get in?
Problem dull. Bars on the windows. Intercom at the door. Even if I could get on that roof, I don't think I'd fit down that chimney.
Bugger, you got to stop watching those videos. Look, why don't you just ring the bell?
Say who, darling? Prince Charles?
I wish I had one of his polo sticks. John O'Rourke, Dumbo.
Why have we stopped? Two things. Rate went in another room. While he was in there, through the crack in the door, I saw a picture on an easel. An old one in a gilt frame. About the same size as that thing of Adrian's back at the office.
Well, how does that affect us?
I'm not sure yet.
Oh, great. So what's the other thing?
This envelope. I've got to return it to Rate.
What's in it?
Our future.
Bloody weather.
Still not answering, Liz.
He will. He's turning over who or what's outside.
Yes?
O'Rourke again, Mr. Wright.
Wait.
Now, Mr. O'Rourke.
Out you come, Ron, where I can see you!
Not too much, Olga, not too much.
What you doing, Liz? Let go, will you?
Olga, I was married to him.
All the more reason. Geezer like this got no idea how to treat a woman. Here you are, old son. Right, Ron. Before I lose my temper, where's the dough?
Bugger, they're back.
Oh, don't you worry about that, Liz. Nothing a lot more than a nice pair to play around with. Know what I mean? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
You're round a bloody bend, Bugger. You know that.
Get it! Oh.
No, here's the other one, the one we lost in the road. In with the hands of the Baskervilles. Right, let's go. Bugger!
Hang about, Liz. I ain't finished it. My Ron.
Come on, you bloody nutter, come on!
Down, Perseus. Hector. Quiet, Andromeda. Hello, John. Everything all right?
You know how it is, Charlie. Curly, you okay?
How about that chap on the floor?
Your missing tenant.
I hope this isn't you persuading him to vacate the property.
It's more his ex-wife trying to persuade him to vacate life.
Like most seamen, I've always had equivocal views about marriage.
Give us a hand to get him into the car, will you? Come on. My office.
No hospital.
No hospital.
Oh, yeah, well, all the best, John. I'll keep in touch. My regards to your lady. Chris, was it? Come on, Perseus. Andromeda, that's bad for you. Come on now, chaps.
Right. Take him, John, while I get the door open. Oh, he's out again. The other arm, John. Then we can get him in the back seat. Oh, there's one of his shoes off now. Just throw it in the back when we get him in. Last time we saw a pair of platform soles like this, out and John was on them. Curly, just heave it and him into the car and let's get back to the office. Even if Bugger holds off for a bit, the weather won't.
Mr. Reid? Are you awake?
Oh,
How are you?
walking wounded is the expression, I think. Those things on the walls.
Oh, it's John's art gallery.
No wonder he wanted to buy one from me. It was for you, I presume.
Me? I'm Chris.
He said for his wife. Oh, talk about indignity upon indignity. Beaten up on my own doorstep, driven through the streets in an uncustomized car, now surrounded by the works of a part-time embalmer. It's enough to drive one back to TM. Transcendental meditation.
Oh, yes.
Ever been to India?
Only via a tea bag. Fancy a cup?
I'm a person of fixed habits, especially in the morning. Oh. Where are my shoes?
What about your face?
Bogger, like the mills of God, grinds exceedingly small, though like any other large, clumsy machine, he needs time to warm up. What you see is merely surface damage.
You know him?
Bogger is the guy who stole my woman, as they say, and as usual now believes he's the injured party, which in Bogger's mind translates to killing me as painfully as possible. That John's bathroom behind the partition. I need a shave.
It's his bedroom. But there's a sink and a geyser in there. Things are a bit, primitive at the moment.
Oh, nothing wrong with roughing it at this stage. Give him something to boast about if he makes it. I've been into it with him, given him a few pointers.
If he makes it.
Come and talk while I shave. Scrape the grape. I'm not here for long, unfortunately.
Are you going somewhere then?
America shortly. The land of promises.
Let's hope some of them are kept.
If the bomb disposal people saw this geezer, they'd cordon the area off. But first, a short time in the sun to heal old wounds. Single bed, bachelor quarters. You're no more his wife than I am.
I never said I was.
The Canaries, perhaps? Somewhere not too far.
Though just far enough.
You been there?
I've seen the map coordinates and spoken to a few of those who managed to make it back.
Ah, Chris, to look at you. If ever there was a girl built for beaches and bikinis, pina coladas and the pine trees, wouldn't take someone like you long to get used to things, learn how it's done. I'll need a bank, by the way.
We're surrounded by them, all empty. John's gone to fetch his dad.
Ah, very feudal. Oh, this razor has an edge like a broken bottle. Move across so I can see you in the mirror. Very nice indeed. Now, what if I make you an offer no girl could refuse?
You're in dreamland, Mr. Rate. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean...
There. A close shave. This razor, one of those you throw away, is it? Disposable. Let's get back where the pictures are. I'll just take this to the window. Celestial Vision, Adrian Mintz, 1983.
They all go for that one.
The old phallocentric conspiracy raises its ugly head again. John's okay, a born trier. But shouldn't you be thinking of a faster model?
Wire wheels and a luminous clock.
You can bargain with your face at the moment, Chris. The only cure for old age is money.
No thanks.
Only one thing for it then, isn't there?
Check your account.
Close it. Chris! Look out! Behind you!
What? Oh!
Yeah, I've just been up to the ward. They told me you were down here in the tea room.
When I saw her, I started to shake. I couldn't help myself, so I came down here.
Scalp wound and concussion. Nasty, but she'll be out in a week, they say. Oh, these places are like refugee transit camps.
I'm losing all track of this.
I want you to get your coat, Mr. O'Rourke. Come with me.
With you? Where to?
Wherever my magic carpet, or warrant card as it's known, wants to waft you.
You're taking me in?
Get your coat and come along. That's all you have to know.
Your drinks, gents.
Ta, George. Yeah, I just thought we'd come here to look at a few villains. Sound as a Euclidean proposition.
Aren't you going to pay for it?
You keep me young, Mr. O'Rourke, you really do. What do you make of it all?
You think Rate was snatched from my place by his wife and Bogger?
No, son. What do you make of it?
Well,
If they did, and didn't find the money on him, which they wouldn't, then they'd go back and turn his bungalow over. Did they?
Mr. Cross? No, they didn't.
Which means Rate did it to Chris himself. But why? I mean, what did he want to hide?
Mr. Cross? Look, I'm busy, Minty. Can't you, as a criminal mastermind, see that?
I just thought I'd say hello. Freezing out. No weather to be skint, eh? Some bastard pinched me Mac the other night too, you know.
That'll slow your sex life for a bit.
Nothing but running noses and steamed up windows. And the price of prescriptions. Good job I'm exempt, you know.
Is there any point in this, Minty, or is it just practice for your next bail hearing?
Me ma's over there having a Guinness. Wave, Mr. Cruster. It makes her feel good.
Mrs. Farrell?
Dick is... Our Billy's due out next week. Me ma wants to visit to explain about his room that she's let out but forgot to tell him, you know. But what with the fares being what they are and their insides being too delicate for buses, well, a tenner would cover a taxi, you know.
You'll have to earn it.
Anything, Mr. Crust.
Right. You've £500,000 to get out in used notes. How do you go about it?
Turn it.
Into what?
Something small, valuable. See that programme the other night about stamps? Bits of paper the ragman wouldn't give you a blow of his bugle for. Unpercolated edges. Me ma's had me going mad rooting out old letters I sent her from inside. And them old paintings too.
Of course. Here you are, Minty. Here's 20. Offered in all humility.
Ah, Mr. Crust. One thing before I go. Who's your pal? You see, me mum will want to know.
That, Minty, is another great detective like myself.
Excuse me.
Then it's in the container.
It's got to be. I saw the shed super. Rate had come down and gone into the container with a large briefcase portfolio job. Whatever the money's been changed into is in there, all right.
What about customs?
Well, it seems if you invoice your stuff as bric-a-brac rather than genuine antiques, you can put in or take out as much as you want until the ship sails, which is tonight. If it ever gets round to it. There's a gale out there.
And you're going with it?
I've got to. Otherwise, I've done nothing in 3 months but make a fool of myself and get a lot of people injured. And I want Rate.
So it's not the cost-efficient ship or how many pesetas to the pound a man weller for him after all?
No, that's just a blind. He's travelling with his assets.
How will you get on board?
The container-based perimeter wire has more holes in it than a Swiss cheese. Dockers make 'em to save walking round through the main gate. Dad's finding out from his mates about a handy one.
How long will it be? To the States?
5, 6 days. Guys often stow away. They slip off the other end with the stevedores. That's what Rate'll try. Then pick up his stuff from the other end.
And Curly?
Well, you see, these ships, the containers are on top, but there's what's known as a ro-ro deck. Roll-on, roll-off deck. Like a car ferry. You get in from a ramp at the rear of the ship. You could hide a regiment in there. It's big as a factory floor, and always chocker. Curly will be safe as houses in there.
Say your goodbyes, please, visitor.
And Crust?
Oh, he'll be there somewhere. Wouldn't be a show without Punch. But I'm going to be the one who finds the money. Crust is going to take me seriously. You too, Chris. In the end, you're going to rate me.
That's an awful pun, John.
I'm in an awful position, Chris. Chris, come with me, love. Paris. A weekend together. See something different. Real paintings. Life. All that sort of thing.
Time's up, visitors, if you will.
Saved by the bell.
Only this round. I'm prepared for a long contest, Chris. And there are gaps in your defence.
Visitors, now for the last time. Haven't you homes to go to? Ships to sail. Away with you. Come on now.
Right, Kelly. There's the gap.
The ship looks massive, even from the road.
Always looks bigger, more beautiful at night, just like barmaids.
How near are they to finishing?
Any time. That container waiting to be lifted must be one of the last. Having second thoughts.
Here's the straddle crane for the container now. We'll go when it's lifted. Right, let's go.
See you, Dad. Ta-da. Send me a card.
Hang on, though. What about the car? Who's going to drive it? John? Curly? Don't leave me here, lads! John! John! Bloody hell! What's that? What's the cover? Where'd he spring from? Oh, my squad car off the road.
Broken down, sir?
Yeah, that's it. It just stopped. Run out of petrol, maybe. I'm not sure.
Got a licence, have we, sir?
Not really, no. It's my son's car.
Funny it should break down here, right outside the container terminal. All those valuable commodities waiting for the shippers, or any villain that comes along. Expensive cars, whiskey, antiques.
Ah.
And where is your son at the moment, sir? For in the RAC, the AA, perhaps?
Well, officer, I don't think I'd be letting you into any secrets if I told you he was now on board that ship over there.
Run away to sea, has he? That's the trouble with youngsters. 2 teenagers myself. How old's your lad?
41.
Oh, dear. This is a bit different. Tell you what, sir. It's a wicked night. Why not let me drive you to the station, sort things out there?
I'd thought of trying to pick up a cab.
Besides which, if anything happened to you, Mr. Crust'd never forgive us.
Like that, is it?
Sergeant Francis, he said to me, discussing matters, old Mr. O'Rourke is a gentleman it'd be a perfect pleasure to arrest. So open the door and we'll get you somewhere safe till it's all over. Oh, it's cold and dangerous tonight. But not as cold and dangerous as it'll be on board the Sea Spray. After you, Mr. O'Rourke.
How's it look out there, Charlie? Charlie?
In the study, Captain, looking over the charts.
What do you think off the bridge?
Rough. Likely to get very much rougher.
Nights like this, I know what you mean about a job ashore. How'd all that go?
Yeah, still undecided. 1 or 2 hitches since we last spoke.
Well, I'd miss you, Charlie, no doubt about it. One of the old school, like myself. Majority these days I wouldn't carry as ballast. Finally got to see the chap renting the place, did you?
Oh, I got to see him. Whether he saw me is another matter. Lying on the floor covered in blood when I left.
On second thought, stay at sea.
Engine room want to know if we're going.
Well, it depends what the pilot says. We're going to stand by, anyway. Any coffee in the chart room?
That's the ramp doors closed. We'll be off shortly now. That wind sounded a gale out there. Hey, I wonder where Rate's hiding out. Dad thought he'd go for a lorry cab. Above ground level. Difficult to spot. Just look at it. It's unbelievable all this should be in one ship's hold. Lorries, cars, tractors, timber, combine harvesters. 1,000 places. 1,000 shadows. Hey, John. Over there. Who? Crust? Right? Where? Oh, it's okay. They've gone now. Hey, who? Mrs. Rate. Boggy. Inspector Crust, where are you now?
Pilot's here, sir.
Thanks, Charlie. Pilot, Captain Forbes. My chief officer, Charlie Rose.
Captain, Chief.
What's the news?
Port radar says it's not gonna get any worse than me, did they? As regards tugs, I've got you 2 up. I can get you a 3rd. Are you going?
Well, what chance another report from the log?
This is Ocean Sea Spray. Ocean Sea Spray. Conditions at lock, please.
Hello, Ocean Sea Spray. Wind westerly 5 to 6, gusting to 7. Over.
Thank you, lock. Over. Want to leave it another hour or so, Captain? See if conditions improve?
Tide's going as it is. Water's running away. No, we'll chance it. Get the other tug up, would you, pilot? Charlie, tell the engine room we're going. And for God's sake, order plenty of coffee. We're going to need it tonight.
Oh, we're moving again.
Yeah, the pilot must have gone. Heading for open sea now.
Feels like it. Oh, it's rocking. I'd better sit down.
Here, this case.
Crosstart?
Where do you spring from? Deus ex machina. The god through the machine. Or lift from the upper deck in this case.
Oh, do me a favour, Mr. Cross.
Not at all. In classical drama, the god or hero from the machine, or crane, was a necessary device enabling someone to suddenly appear and unravel the plot. Wrote an essay on it just last week.
Yeah, but one of the complications for our hero is that Mrs. Rate and Bugger are here, looking to unravel a few things as well. Look out! It's beginning to look like an all-ticket do, eh, Inspector?
Then lucky I brought this along.
That's a gun! I thought you
must believe all you read in the papers. Hold on. Blimey! What are Jason and the Argonauts doing up there, I wonder?
Well, Charlie?
Bad. Worrying. It's got much worse.
All right, as long as we keep a nose into it. Roll side on in this sea, we'll throw a container. Look at this one. Down we go.
And up we come.
Shedding canvas.
And drinking rum.
We'll ring the engine room, Charlie. Reduce the slow ahead. You hear that, helmsman?
Captain. Sir, we're losing way. She's turning beam on.
Holy moly, the engine's stopped.
Yeah, thanks. Sec? Yeah, thanks, sir. Right, as soon as you can. Governor's jammed.
How long, did they say?
Look out, Captain. Port side. Oh!
Curly, where are you? Get down, Mr. O'Rourke.
Where is he?
Oh, his timber. Just winded. Keep your head down. Look.
No! Right.
Out of his lorry cab like a disturbed spider.
What's happened to the ship? The engine?
At an educated guess, the last time she pitched, the top came out of the water. Once it's out of the water, there's nothing for it to work against. It speeds up. This, of course, could damage the engine, so there's a mechanism called the governor cuts in and stops the engine. When the ship's stern re-enters the water, the engine usually starts again automatically.
Which it hasn't. Only because Mr. Cross never had a hand designing it.
By the combined harvester, Bugger and Mrs. Rate. Hang on, it's going again!
We've got to get out of here! What are you going to do with that gun?
Rate spotted his missus and Bugger. If I don't have Rate, he'll have one of them. Here goes.
No! Look out, Mrs. Rate! What's happened?
Missed. But they know we're here. You made a mistake, young Curly. Rate won't let you off the hook so easy.
Cross, we've got to get out! This stuff movement's going to turn us into jam roly-poly!
There we go! Bugger and Madame Pompadour heading for the access ladder to the upper deck. That was clean. Must have dropped his gun.
There's a way up for us.
Here! Access doors all the way along. Hold on. Rate again.
He's going to the same door as them. He's going to shoot up at them. Stop him, Mr. Cross! No! Any good?
Clipped him, I think. Come on!
Oh. Where are we going?
On top of the containers! Follow me!
What do they say down below?
Another 5 minutes or so.
Wonder we haven't thrown a container yet. One's right up forward will have taken a fair hammering. Have a look, will you, Charlie? We all secure up for it?
Captain, this crew. You recall anyone with long blonde hair and a fur coat?
Well, you know how it is these days. Who am I to pass comment?
Otherwise, there's a woman on top of the containers.
Good God, you're right.
And 2 men. Small one with a gun trying to force the other off the edge of the container.
These shoreside wallows will do anything for a bit of publicity. Imagine having to go back to all that. I'd think again about those kennels. Look out! Got rid of them, have we?
Afraid not, sir. Hang on, there's 3 more just come out of the starboard access.
What?
One of those has a gun too. Big chap. And the other...
Well, I'll be damned. I thought I'd left all this sort of thing behind on the cruise ships. Something up?
Fact is, sir, I think I know a couple of these blokes.
It's this run they're on. This bloody North Atlantic. That and the monosodium glutamate. What are they doing below? Give the chief a ring, will you?
Shouldn't we do something, Captain? The people on the containers, I mean, for good or ill, I feel personally involved with 1 or 2 of them.
The sea holds all the answers, Charlie, always has done. I don't usually talk in this fashion, as you know, but nights like tonight, full moon, raging seas, ship broken down, 5 madmen with guns on top of the containers, well, somehow brings out the philosopher. Why me, Charlie? Why?
Got to look.
Hell's bloody bells. One of them's grabbed the woman from behind.
Who the bloody hell are you?
Police!
Oh, I might have known. They'd wear Epsom salts, wouldn't you, lot? Well, do something! You got a gun? That bastard husband of mine is trying to kill Bugger! What's happening? I can't see!
Now the small cove trying to force the other off the container shot him again. You should look, Captain.
I can't, Charlie. I'm a civilized man.
But the other bloke's still teetering on the edge. God, the bastard shot him again at close quarters. Now they're struggling. Oh, here it comes.
What's the score, Charlie?
The 2 of them are gone. As is the container they were on. As that's about 3 more from the port side. Engines restarted, sir.
More bloody forms to fill in. How about the rest of them?
Come on, Mrs. Wright. It's over now. They both gone. Come on, love. It's for the best. Come on.
So Crust made the arrest after all.
But I found the cash.
I suppose we're going to have to hear how. That tea ready, Curly?
Everything in general on the boil. Come on, John. The most puzzling thing was Rate's behaviour here. I mean, why wreck the office? Tear the paintings off them?
Given his behaviour on the containers, reckon this place is hardly to be noticed. As for the masterpieces of Adrian Mintz, you've now got them out on the pavement in bin bags waiting for the dust cart.
Yeah, well, I've had the place redone. That sort of reward Crust got me.
But how did you earn it?
Well, when we came to open Rate's containers, at first there seemed nothing but junk, all smashed and splinters. Only thing seemed intact were 2 Victorian front doors. Then I noticed the knocker.
On the door?
No, the other one, Celestial Vision.
Right, yeah.
And the penny dropped. The reason Rate wrecked the office was to steal Celestial Vision. A clip-on, clip-off frame. What he did was to turn the $500,000 into another painting and slip it behind Adrian's green boob with the eye.
Oh!
An early Italian piece it turned out to be.
Sophia Loren.
No. Once he'd got to America, right, he'd simply reclaim from his container what looked like a real piece of bric-a-brac and then take the good one from behind it.
Simple as that.
Well, Chris, how did I do? Enough to earn a weekend in Paris?
Oh, certainly enough to start me considering it.
Hey, that's my sister, your proposition.
What the hell's going on? Have a look out of the window, will you, Curly?
There's a dozen or so bikers. There's more chains on than Marley's ghost. Hey, they're looking up. Hey, they're coming in. A couple of big uns. Afternoon, lads. Any way I can help?
Where's the deck? Yeah.
Oh, John O'Rourke, private investigator.
I want you to find something. Something gone missing. Yeah?
Glad to oblige. Let me give you a card.
Aye. You Paul Daniels or something? Nice one.
Okay. Now, what is it?
Paintings.
Paintings?
Yeah.
You must be joking.
This is where I came in. You've come to the right place. Thing is, lads, I've just cracked a big one revolving around paintings. You know, money, heavy mobbing from London, shootout at sea. Just finished sorting it, in fact.
So now you can sort this.
Okay. Name, please?
Mence. Adrian Mence. See what I want, Scratcher.
Yeah. Right. Go to the window, Lagade.
Oh, yeah!
It's ham and eggs. He's been in them bin bags lying on the pavement, holding something up. You better come and look at this, Aid.
Oh, no, the paintings.
You ready for action, Scratch?
Impress me here, John. You can take me to Paris any time. On second thoughts, book the tickets. Maybe we'll convalesce there.
Just another night. Monkey on my back. Hepatitis B. Wife's begun to pack. Just another night. Trying to turn a bob. Things go on like this. Have to get a job.
In O'Rourke's First Case by Vincent McInerney, John was played by Ken Cumberledge, Curly by Dominic Rickards, Chris by Maureen O'Brien, Mr. O'Rourke by Richard Tate, Mrs. Rate by June Barry, and Inspector Crust by James Ellis. Bogger was David Googe, Rate, Eric Allen, Charlie, Jonathan Nibbs, Minty, Bill Monks, the Captain and Adrian Mintz, Christian Rodsker, the Barman and the Compere, Ian Target, Scratcher, David Lerner, and the telephone operator, Marian Elor. The song Just Another Night was written and sung by Vincent McInerney, and the Nergs were Steve Wright on guitar, Dave Dover on bass, and Steve Bartley on percussion. O'Rourke's First Case was directed in Bristol
and Liverpool
by Sean McLaughlin.
Oh,